All righty, let's finish setting things up. And it looks like things are operating according to plan. Always a good thing. And welcome everyone, every one person right now, um, to the Sunday Brunch Bunch for episode 27. you know, wow, this is done this 20, this is going to be the 27th time. I've already done it 26 times. And I certainly appreciate the folks who show up to watch and also the folks who show up to participate in these live streams. Um, a little thing last week when I did this, I had just gotten over being sick for a week, and I'm still now in a recovery phase. I'm not sick anymore with whatever nasty flu that I had, but it just takes a while for everything to kind of like clear itself out. So pardon me, if I'm going to be coughing and clearing my throat and still sound a little bit nasally, but certainly I am on the road to recovery. And as you can see with this particular episode, we are, taking a slightly different approach because, in the latter 90s, it was difficult to come up with a lot of examples of music, at least for me. And Jorgen also was having, didn't always have that much. Chris, when he would come by, didn't always have that much. Of course, when Stunty participates, he has a plethora of vinyl, some of it well known, some of it rather arcane, but just because he has this massive collection anyway. So that hasn't been a really big problem for him. And more recently, with Jason participating, he was commenting that he was a little bit lean on examples for these years. Well, so anticipating that to get even worse, for example, when I looked up the year 2000 and went through my collection, I think I found like one or two examples of vinyl. Okay. I mean, I had a few other examples on CD, but that was it. So that's when I decided, okay, let's expand this and let's take the first 5 years of the 2000s and combine them together. So we've got the year 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2004. And I was able to pull a pretty substantial, I won't say like substantial is the wrong word, but I was able to pull some examples covering all those years. Hello. Uh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, those guys, and welcome, Chris. Those guys always have like lots of records. So if they decide to show up, they're going to need to use their editing skills to, narrow down, what they may want to show and talk about. Excuse me. The other thing that I'll be showing in, I have sort of, made this rule or edict, not to show compilations like greatest hits and that kinds of thing, because uh, you know just uh, just because they usually are containing material that was released earlier. However, I'm going to be showing some compilations that are unique in that the material is not something and it's not something that you would normally find. These are compilations that were curated by a record label or something, and put together of often sometimes very obscure music. And then also I have some compilations of dance, house, high energy dance music from that era. And yeah, right. um, but that's also the time of it's also that was part of that era, and there was some significant. I'm just going to quickly go through most of those because they're from a musicological historical perspective. They are important, and they really are not like a standard compilation that you might find um, elsewhere, where you're just taking either the same mixes from the album, or maybe there's some the single mixes that were released, and then putting together in some sort of compilation. Many of these compilations or these mixes are they're the creations of the DJ who put them together, using the tools that they had at their disposal, as well as creating the mix to go with the song. And then it was played in the clubs, and that period for me was a really important period in my life. The club period, the club years, which for me were primarily from the mid 1990s to the mid 2000s. After that, I wasn't so much into the dance club scene, but I acquired quite a bit of music, and I still love listening to it. I bring it out, and I've only had a couple mixes in high ed that ended up sounding like dated in any way. I really don't, because much of this music that I was collecting of these dance mixes and DJ mixes that were being circulated around in the clubs, um, are just as, to me, they're just as fresh and sound just as good today, as they did 20 years ago. Some of them are just really, really remarkable and fun, and it's music that there's a place for music where you are sitting there and listening to it and absorbing it, and then there is music that you just got to get up and move. As Madge says, you got to get up and move to the rhythm. So let's oops, I'm not doing this right here. There we go. Now I can add Chris to the stream here, and I better turn my volume up because I won't be able to hear you. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, pretty good. How about you?
You've got your Doctor of Philosophy now in Record Talk?
Yeah, I got my PhD in the year 2000, so I can now use it.
Okay.
I used it in the 90s, so.
All right.
Of course, one of the realities was I got my job as a professor, and I was a young professor working on getting tenure. So the year of these 5 years we're doing today, 2000 is my strongest year. What I've done for right now is I've pulled 2 records from each year, And then if we have time, I can pull some other stuff from the year 2000 later on.
Well, yeah, when I show, for example, the dance mixes, I'm going to show a bunch because it's just to kind of provide the historical perspective, that this material was coming out, at that time. And, these are examples of the songs that were, the DJs were taking and making the different mixes. And so, I mean, there's, certainly songs, like, well, actually, some of these are from older songs, like, this dance remix by of Eleanor Rigby. But it was a mix that was produced and released in 2001. Neil Diamond. So yeah, there are some examples of some of these older songs that are being redone, not redone. The presentation is being, updated for whatever was happening in the clubs at that time, and a lot of them were actually pretty good. So yeah, it is kind of like stretching my own rules about about this, but hey, it's my show. So
yeah, because I know I was on Rachel's stream and Jason was on as well, and Jason's like, "Oh yeah, he changed the rules. I've got so many records to show." And Stunty was in the peanut gallery going, "Yeah, me too." So.
Well, we'll see.
I was sort of like you. I had enough to do a full episode with 2000, but some of those other years it'd be like, it's like, okay, I'm showing records for like 5 minutes and I'm done.
Yeah. And the last couple of times with the 90s, it was like, I had like 3 records and that was pretty much it. And then I was just moderating for the rest of the time, which is fine. But we'll see if Jason and Stunty, get over their angst over, the world changing and being unpredictable, and, and see if they stop by and join us. So we got oh yeah, there he is. Stunty's coming on in 5. Okay, excellent. So no, we did not skip 1999. Zeb, that was last week. We did the year 1999. And, Zeb mentions the Flaming Lips. And during this period, there was a record by them that, what is it? Yoshimi Battles the Robot or something like that. Yoshimi or that release. And I know I had that. In on a CD, and I was looking for it, and I can't find it. So it's just, it's weird how over the years, you have something, you remember it, you can visualize it in your hands, and then something. Where did it go? Where does this stuff go? Are there like these gremlins who come into the in the apartment at night and then mysteriously move shit, just
I'll show you my gremlin. It has nothing to do with the years, but so we've got my Bob Marley Songs of Freedom CD box.
Oh, what happened?
At some point over the last 20-25 years, disc number 3 has gone away, and I don't know what happened to it. I'm actually sort of suspecting that when I got rid of a car, that maybe I left it in the CD player of that car. So, but
yeah. So you see, what happens is, you can't see it behind me, but what I end up doing a lot when I'm listening to music, and I don't do it so much with the LPs. I pull them up, and then I have this one shelf where I'm keeping, new acquisitions and stuff that I'm listening to,
Yeah.
so that they're easy retrieval. But with CDs, I start pulling them out, and then I just set them on this like coffee table in front of my TV and stereo, and then they stay there for like a really long time. And then when I feel like I want to listen to something, then I have to go first. I got to go search through the tabletop to see if it's there, or some other stack that I've created someplace. So yeah, CDs have a habit of being mischievous in my the way I organize my space. So, but hey, it's been all right.
Oh, so Zed's asking about so that's the Third Man Record logo that's on a flag that at some point I had ordered records from them and they gave it to me. They just stuck it in the box. So that's what's on the wall behind there.
Ah, okay. Oh, the two which would be over your right shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay. I know. Looking at the, I keep
Yeah.
forgetting. Like I'm. Sometimes I think
Yeah.
the mirroring in what I'm seeing is supposed to be like a mirror, but it's
Yeah.
not. It does it appropriately. So I forget, which hand I want to. Anyway, never mind. Uh, so yes, we got Stunty coming on shortly, but I'm going to get started here with I'm going to go through CDs first, and then because these are the ones that I'm talking about when it comes to like the dance music and the compilations, and then I have some others before I get into albums. But these, excuse me, these three compilations of dance music, high energy house, I think you could probably call. But actually, these are more on the trance side, and I'm not real clear on the difference. Other than I know that with house and high energy house, it's usually music that with vocals, someone singing, whereas the trance tends to uh, be a similar beats per minute, but not as much vocals or whatever. But anyway, let me see if I can remember what order. If we start with the year 2000, which one is this? This one is the year 2002. So this is, I think, the earlier one. This is CD Transnation America. All right. So this is something that was curated by Taylor and Jimmy Van Am. All right. And was released in 2000. And so, yeah, Ministry of Sound has been a, see, I'm forgetting what finger I should be pointing with. They were putting out a lot of really great material. Also, at this time, they had clubs all over the world, although I never managed to get to one of them. But so they've got a lot of different mixes in here, and for example, the mixes are by Taylor and Jimmy Van Am. So there's a double CD, and CD1 are the ones that are mixed by Taylor, and then CD2 is the one by Jimmy Van Am. And a lot of great material, etc. The other one. This was a later one. This one was 2003, I think it said when I looked it up. 2002, excuse me. Another one, Transnation. Another one by Ministry of Sound. This one was made in England. This one was produced in the U.S. So what's nice about these is it not only shows the songs, but it says what mix it is. For example, they've got Sinead O'Connor, Troy. This is the Push remix. Now, of course, I don't know anything about what is the Push remix, etc. But again, Perry Corsten, I believe, is the person who compiled and put this all together. But so, all right. So, you can do that. Just means the next show that we do, we're going to be jumping up to 2005. So, whatever. I see I got Stunty in the green room. So, but he's got an avatar up for now. So when he comes back, we'll bring him on. Then the third one for this particular one is from 2003, and it's called "Twist This Pussy." This was who is the person who curated this? DJ Vibe, whoever he or she was. But this is, I think, probably more in the vein of trance, maybe techno, or maybe I really sometimes the difference between the different styles of this type of music. Again, it's predominantly instrumental. They had another one. This one's called "Twist This Pussy." They had another one that was called "Mix This Pussy," which was available on Amazon for a while, but I didn't get that one. And but anyway, so that's what I wanted to start off with. This whole era of the how you say of the dance and the high energy, and this was an era that I was very much into musically. And when I heard something that I liked at the clubs, I did my best to try and track down the same mix and checking some things out, which, this was before Shazam. This was before, there were, at least that I was aware of, apps. And even Shazam, I have found it sometimes doesn't recognize a song because it is a dance mix or it is a DJ mix of a song, and so it doesn't recognize the mix at all. But when it does, it just recognizes the song most of the time, and who the original artist was, not what that particular mix. So it's frustrating sometimes to look these up. But oh man, for me, it's so satisfying when I find that a compilation someplace, or there's a CD single of that exact mix. I think because I was showing Ministry of Sound, I'm going to also show this. All right. So this would be my first, what do you call it? My first for the year, Ministry of Sound. And this is a single. What is it here? Let me pull out the thing. Found this when I was in Seattle several weeks ago. All right, so this is Your Life. This is the sheet that came with it by Celeste, and so this was a Ministry of Sound import on there, and so it was very cool. So it's got them. To me, I find it cool that it's got although this is not the original label, somebody took a Ministry of Sound sticker and pasted it over. This is the original label, and then on the other side is actually, I think, the track listings. But anyway, very cool. So that era, and I can see now we've got some others to bring on board here. We've got Stunty, who looks like he is suffering an earthquake blast coming into Sweden. Or
wow.
It was Heater Records, and you know what he chose.
Well,
dude, is that your 2000s look? That's his 2000s look.
So that's my 88 look. 1988.
Looks like Daft Punk to me. It's snowing like crazy here, actually. We got a blizzard happening.
Yeah, here too.
you're Canada, so
Oh, Sweden and Canada. Yeah, we got it.
Here it's not snowing anymore. It's too cold for snow now.
yeah.
Too cold.
Oh yeah,
It's-
that's why I like snowy winters, because when it's a winter without a lot of snow, those are the coldest ones because it can be too cold.
Yeah, but you
to snow.
want to have the snow because when there's snow, it means it is less dark.
Yes, that's true too because of the reflection
Brighter.
you get from the snow.
Which
But it
is
tends
less
to be
depressing.
warmer when there's a lot of snow. You
Yeah.
know. Except when I lived in West Yellowstone, Montana, in which there was snow higher than I am tall,
Yeah.
and it would be 30 below zero anyway.
Oh, that's what we're getting to in February usually here. Late January, early February. Usually that's when we hit -20, -30 Celsius.
Yeah.
This is what I pulled just for 2000. I'm not going
Okay.
beyond 2000 today.
Oh, all right. Well,
I know you were going 5 years, but I could have this amount for each year easily. More.
that's all
What are
right.
the rules? What are the rules of showing?
Richard played with us a bit here, so
Yeah. See, I'm playing fast and loose here.
yeah.
Right. So, but the only one is that I just expanded to include 2000 through 2004. So,
Richard, who has something on in the background?
There, it's gone.
Who
That was
watching
Rachel still talking. Yeah, Rachel was in my background. Well, sorry about that. Just ignore that. Yeah.
I have over 600 records from 2004.
yeah,
But,
I'm sure you do. You're never going to be able to show
Yeah.
all of them.
No. But like, I'm wondering what the rules are of how many records are we showing at a time today.
Well, the
you know
usual.
what? You know, if you want to show 5 or 6 records in
No.
one
I want
time,
rules. I want rules. I want
you want
something.
rules, then
Wasn't meant to be broken.
you need to go maybe 1,000 or so kilometers to the east and find yourself in Murmansk, and then you're going to find lots of rules there.
All right. But here, no rules. Okay.
Well played, Richard.
Well, you know, I can also play the let's see, how do I want to say this? The tyrant, the petty tyrant. And if I
Yes,
think you're,
I want that. I want that.
all right, you know, because then I can always just, you know, if you're doing something that doesn't meet with my rules, then I'm just going to mute your mic. I mean, you just
Talking
drop
sexy
you
to
off the
Stunty.
screen.
Stunty wants discipline.
I want that. But I
He's
want
looking
that.
for discipline today.
But I know that Richard wants to apply it to himself as well, so that's perfectly fine.
Okay, you're looking for
anyway, the
fairness.
reason-
Okay, gotcha.
You know, just in full disclosure, if we stuck with just the year 2000, I would have like 2 records to show, and that's it. So that's why I expanded it, so you guys can fit in. If you want to pick a year like what Jason's doing and stick with that, that's fine. Just remember that when we go to the next episode, it's going to be from 2005. So
2006.
so
All right.
then we can get started here, and Dr. Record Talk. What have you got to start us off with?
Okay, so let me show a couple of artists from the year 2000. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Juliana Hatfield out of the way because you guys knew I was going to show that at some point. She released 2 albums on the same day in the year 2000. Why 2 different albums? Because they're very different. So the one I'm holding up right now is called Beautiful Creature. This is probably her most polished pop, sort of adult alternative. The kind of record I would recommend to people who like Fiona Apple and Tori Amos, that sort of stuff. There are some really cool songs on here. The song Choose Drugs is like a harrowing song about giving your lover an ultimatum. The drugs are you, and they pick the drugs. So then the other record, which people who are Juliana Hatfield fans either love or hate, is this one called Total System Failure. This is basically her hard rock metal album. There's a song called My Protege, which has the shreddiest guitar solo you'll ever hear on a Juliana Hatfield record. And so she didn't make a double album because this wouldn't make sense as a double album because they're very different from each other.
You mentioned the story behind that one song where with the ultimatum. I knew somebody who had that kind of experience because I used to work in an institution for neglected and abused and abandoned children. And one of the children at that time relayed to me the story that his mother couldn't afford to keep both him and the dog.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she kept the dog and abandoned him. So that's how he ended up getting into the system. So those types of ultimatums, like the one that you described, that the person went with the heroin instead of her, there are people who make decisions like that. So moving on then, Stunty.
Yeah, I'm going to show a record that I got through work as I was doing press releases, writing the text for press releases for Warp around that time as just a side job, and a record that came out on Warp back then that I would probably not have bought if they didn't give it to me as a promo for free, but I ended up liking it quite a lot.
Vincent Gallo.
Yeah. The actor who used to have a band with what's the name of the street artist from New York, Basquiat. He used to have a band with Basquiat, and he was an artist, a musician. He was also connected with early hip hop and doing post-punk stuff. And then he got his break through Abel Ferrara, the movies. I guess the big movie for him was The Funeral. And then he started to do his own movies, Brown Bunny, I think, or Highway 69 or something like that with Christina Ricci. And then he got crazy and he got kind of canceled before cancel culture. But this is a pretty good album of like folk, rock, weirdo stuff. The single of this came out as a 78 RPM, and already you see this reminds a little bit of the feel of these like all 78s. And this is a weirdo record. It's also kind of weird that this came out on that label and at that time, because in 2001 Warp was just starting to expand outside of electronic music with some hip hop and some other related stuff, but this was completely, it felt like an opportunity. They got okay, we have the opportunity to release the album from Vincent Gallo, who was super hip back then, and a good move, but it turned out to be a really interesting record. Soon after that, he started to make claims that like he was actually selling his sperm to the highest bidder, but he would only sell it to Republican women because he gave $1 million to the re-election of George Bush, apparently. Who knows?
Oh, jeez. Well, yeah. Everybody has a fault.
Yeah.
So,
at least it wasn't Trump. It was the other Republicans, pre-Trump Republicans. There's Jorgen.
By the way, this guy has the most expensive sound system I've ever seen. I sold records to him. He's a huge record collector, and he spends fortune on that. And his sound system is worth $3.5 million. And he made it. He didn't buy it expensive. He knows his shit. He is a true music lover, and he's buying crazy rare records all the time. And I think that's why his movie career is gone downhill, because he's obsessed with buying records.
Mm-hmm. Oh, silence my phones here so I don't get the sounds and coming in there. All right, so Jason, what have you got for us? And by the way, welcome, Jorgen.
Okay. Welcome, Jorgen. Okay, I've got a couple of house tracks here to show. I am playing by the old rules, everybody. I'm just doing 2000, just because it would have took me longer to pull more stuff. But like Stunty, I got lots for each year, being a DJ and all that. So first one is on the Africanism label. A lot of Africa talk earlier, eh, Chris, on Rachel's channel.
Oh yeah,
Kind of got into boomer territory there. They weren't sure who was what.
yeah. And waxed it and Nazi into a idiotic fight
About David Matthews, and it was semi-funny, but then the joke got extended way too far.
It was funny for 2 minutes, not 15.
Yes, yeah, totally. Well said.
It will be funny for a year, trust me.
For that show, yes. Okay, so this is from 2000, obviously. Call it Jungle Jazz, and the flip side is Edeni, Clap Your Hands. So this is actually French stuff, right? This is like Bob Sinclair's kind of label, Africanism, on yellow. So Stunty probably knows some of these people. Maybe you've met some of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bob Sinclair. DJ Gregory. Just a killer single, killer track. I got a whole bunch from Africanism. That label was hot in the 2000s. This is another hot label. I don't know if I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to maybe censor some of this cover. But Jorgen, cover your eyes.
I'm over 18. Hey.
Yeah, I know. Blue 6 Pure. Anyway, it's the Naked label out of California, I believe. I think it started in New York, but then I think it moved to California. Anyway, lots of really smooth, deep house. This was really loungy stuff. We were playing this in the lounges all the time. When I first moved to Ottawa in the 2000s, I started playing all these restaurant gigs, which paid pretty nice, actually. So you'd play this, and people would be eating a steak dinner or whatever. But yeah, it's smooth, deep, jazzy, sometimes house with a female vocal. And Blue 6 Pure was a great single on that label. That label, I think, started around 99. But so 2 house records for me, kicking it off.
All right.
Sorry about the porno, but
Hey, well, there was that time that
it happens. Porn happens.
You know, if you try and show a Chakaka's record, you're gonna be, running into the same situation. And then when you look at a lot of the covers to Santana's albums,
Right.
If you look closely at them,
Yeah.
they are more than what they seem. All right. So what have we got, Jorgen? Are you going to use the whole 5 years, or are you just going to stick to one?
I had the reason why I'm late is because you messed things up. I picked out from 2000, then I thought I can pick from all. I had to reschedule everything and to pull out from different.
I feel your pain.
So
Keeps us on our toes.
I have from all 5. I definitely not going to say that these are the easiest one. These are the toughest one, because year 2000 and forward was when my interest for actual music that were popular was getting downhill. It was too much hip hop. It was uninteresting rock. It was boy band wannabes going single, and it was crap, with some exceptions. And those are Yes, Tanti?
Great to know that you're going to talk about the years you despise the most about music.
Yes, you made me do it. I don't know how it works here. I'm taking from 2000 first, and next round 1, and then next one 2, and then so on until I start with
Hey, sounds like a plan.
So this round 1 from 2000, and I'm starting with my favorite voice. These are albums that are not naturally discovered this year. Some of them I discovered also later on, of course. This is Randy Crawford and her album Play Mode from 2000. Randy Crawford, still the amazing voice. The sound is mixed both with a modern R&B soul touch, but still with a big foot in her old style of singing or making music, with a little jazzes and with a lot of touching style. So she has managed to blend both modern and old-fashioned style in a perfect way in this amazing album.
Where is she from?
Randy Crawford.
No,
I
where
don't-
from? Where?
USA.
USA. Okay. Okay.
You mean you had never heard of Randy Crawford?
I've never heard of her.
I've never heard of her.
I've never heard of her. None of us have heard of her.
She's
You're
totally
kidding me.
irrelevant.
I heard of
kidding me.
Brandy. I know Brandy, but I don't know.
You never. That is interesting. You never heard of works with Crusaders and all the stuff that she has made. Someday I Fly Away and everything.
She was with the Crusaders? Oh, I know the Crusaders. Not this Brandy.
Well,
Street
that
Life.
was 2000.
You got that
Yep.
Brandy.
That on I showed. I showed
Yeah,
that.
That's not.
We
the
all
one.
know about that, Brittany.
I just looked up on Wikipedia and it said she was more successful in Europe than in America.
You mean you never heard Street Life?
Street Life, yes, I love Crusaders.
Yeah, she's the one singing on that.
I didn't realize, and so props to her. I should check that record out.
But as Chris
But you said it was
pointed-
crap. Did you say it was crap or no?
No, the year. The year's all crap.
The year was crap. Okay.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
as Chris
No,
just mentioned, the key point of what perhaps why those of us over here in North America haven't heard of her.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's very interesting because I
Basically,
think
the
I've
stuff
shown
we would have heard, we didn't know it was her because it was under a band name.
Yeah.
she wasn't a member of Crusaders. She sang on that song. She wasn't. She sang on that song as a solo artist.
Okay. But apparently, she was much bigger in Europe than she was in
Fighting like
Europe.
a maniac now.
All right.
Almas, a great single from 1987.
No, don't know it. All right. Well, moving on. That's the only one you have for this round, then, Jorgen?
Now, I don't know how it works. So I can take it from 2001 now if you want to, but
Well, he only has
Well,
one
it
for
depends, you know,
2000.
It depends on
no, I
you
meant
get
from 2000. But I have split them up in different years, so I take one from each year,
Okay.
and then
Mine are going to be all mixed up.
I even brought a couple CDs for Jorgen. Warm his heart.
Well, and my next round here to get through a lot of the music, the club music that I was listening to, is a bunch of CDs. So from different years. This one is this was the February release from the year 2003 of this series called Mix Limited. So, you know, the songs that were, you know, hot at that time, or at least hot with the DJs at that time and in the clubs. You know, a lot of Mariah Carey, a lot of Christina Aguilera, even Leanne Rimes, the Thunderpuss Club Mix, a TikTok.
Dreadful.
Yeah. So there was that one. I've talked about Peak Hour before in these mixes, which I really like because they're continuous. There's no separation between the different tracks. And a bunch of them were released in the early 2000s. I've got 15 here. I've got
Richard, it's
14.
very communist of you. Very communist of you. So that the bad tracks, the turbo tracks, are seamed into the good tracks, and everyone shares the same place.
Yeah.
A great
that's
leveler.
true, because I look at, for example, this one here, Peak Hour 13. I mean, you know, it ends with Cher's The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine, which to me is such an over the top kind of like, I don't know, it's just, but I'll listen to it just because of the mood and everything that was set up by everything that happened before.
Time capsule, right?
I mean, even got the Backstreet Boys on here, The Shape of My Heart. It's like, right after Boy. Love Boy.
You
What a
you
great
probably
opening.
shouldn't buy that. You probably shouldn't have that.
It's more time capsule than music, right?
Yeah, and then there's number 9 for Peak Hour. This is when they changed their cover art. One of my favorite mixes of I'm Not in Love, of Olive's version as opposed to the original version, which, what was the name of that band that did I'm Not in Love?
10cc?
No,
10cc?
it was I think it was an American rock band, and it was a big hit for them too.
But this
And then,
this mix series was sort of for gyms, right? When we looked it up, I think it was like for physical.
Well, I don't know if it was for
Movement.
gyms, but a lot of these mixes they were playing, in the clubs. I mean, it is pretty standard. There's a standard. The rhythm, the beat is the same through the whole thing, so
Steady.
it probably could be used for like aerobic type programs or something like that. But and then they also did. This is the uncut. Their series that came out, and now this one does identify the mixes. So this one here is number 20, and there's like more than 200 of them. But you've got the Neil Diamond Coming to America, but it's the white label mix, and then you have an Eddie Baez club mix of the Beatles, Eleanor Rigby. So there's older songs on here, Book of Love. The band Book of Love, I Touch Roses, but it's the Marcus Schultz dark mix, whatever. These are all right. I just never got a bunch of the uncut because, again, there's a separation between the different songs rather than them going together. I like to put them on and listen to the whole thing. Last one for this round is DJ Scribble. He had some mixed compilations that came out that had some really good mixes on here, and this was one of the ones that I really liked. There's a DJ Jurgen. Oh my God, you're on here.
We knew it.
Don't tell anyone.
His alias.
Yeah.
Just do the cover again, Richard.
Show the cover.
What's that?
Yeah, Jason, don't you think that in that area, mixed CDs, you can kind of tell by the design, not even the old, but by the design, what level of quality you're gonna get.
What you're getting, yeah, right, yeah. It's pretty
That DJ Jürgen is the
simple.
one who also uses the name. I think he's the one who uses the name Jürgen Feiss. He's a German.
There's a lot of Jurgens out there.
Yes.
That Big Beat logo, though, that's a pretty good house label from the '90s.
Yeah, but it's not that.
But it got commercial fast.
Yeah, but it was an Atlantic CD. Basically, they bought the
Yeah.
rights. So
The sub label. Robin S was on it, right? Show Me Love was on Big Beat.
No.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
there
am.
was one.
Yeah.
More than two.
All right.
Yes, he
So
ran
that's
through
what
it.
I just wanted to quickly get through those CDs before I now will be going to the vinyl in much smaller numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So there we have it. What you got for us, Chris?
All right, so I've got another pick from the year 2000. This is actually something I only discovered very recently. Aaron,
Cool.
who's Mr. Bizarro, played this on one of his live streams, and I thought it was really cool. So I picked it up. The band's called Farrakhet. Album's called The View from This Tower. It's basically pretty math rocky on Discord Records. They were from Washington, D.C. Apparently, this is the only album this group put out. I think the guy, Devin Ocampo, who's the leader of the group, went on to do some other stuff, but I would have to look it up to really be sure. But he played it on his stream. I thought it was really cool, and I bought it. And kind of glad I did. And I don't feel as bad buying stuff from Discord as a lot of other labels because I think Discord's a little bit more honest than a lot of labels in how they do business.
Bizarro's got some good taste, that guy, Mr. Bizarro.
Yeah.
And also some bad ones.
I've never seen that one before. I love Discord. So it's hardcore, or you said it's like post rock,
No,
math rock?
it's post hardcore math rock.
Okay.
Yeah, Discogs listed as math rock and indie rock combined, but it's reasonably priced if that's their only
It's a
record or
decent
whatever.
record.
So
I
Chris,
remember-
for the audience out there, how would we explain math rock? It's aggressive but technical.
Yeah. Math rock tends to be very technical. I'm not a music theorist, but I think they'll have like very technical in terms of chords, in terms of time,
Tempo and stuff, timing, a little bit.
I
the
mean,
way I
sometimes
describe
the prog rock people want to claim that it's kind of like their music, but I think it doesn't have the dopey lyrics that you will see in the prog rock that I don't like. I'm making some enemies in the audience, but
how I characterize math rock. I mean, Ed mentions like Fripp. I mean, a lot of what King Crimson did and continues to do kind of qualifies as math rock, but I tend to think of it as music that, yes, it's technical, but the primary driving instrumentation is coming from the rhythm section. It's coming from the drummer, and it's coming from, maybe the bass player. Whereas the guitar players and keyboard players, when you listen to what they're playing, it's very minimal, and it's always tied to the tempo and rhythm for the most part.
Yeah, you're not going to have like a wanky guitar solo.
Yeah, I think that like the difference between math rock and post rock, to make it more like about the aesthetic, is that both are the same, but one will appeal to the metalheads and one will appeal to the punk rock heads.
Okay.
Interesting.
Math rock
I like them both, whichever.
For the hardcore,
I like listening to bands like Polvo or Don Caballero.
Sure. It's not necessarily a one or the other.
Right.
And like for me,
I get what you think, but I'm just trying to think who's going to listen to Mouse on the Keys. Maybe it's the jazz people will listen to Mouse.
No, but because like math rock really emphasize on the technicality of the playing, whereas in post rock is only a byproduct. They want to achieve something and they need to do something complicated. They're not necessarily that good at making it, but the composition is more complicated often than the playing, the actual playing. It's less about dexterity, whereas in math rock you start to get that.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're shifting time signatures all the time. All right. Yeah. So, that was you, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Stunty next.
Stunty's
so I'm
next.
going to show something that everyone here knows, probably everyone likes to a certain degree, and probably most of you don't know that he still released stuff on vinyl in 2001.
David Axelrod.
Yeah, his last studio album, which is pretty interesting. I assume everyone knows who David Axelrod is, right?
I have heard of the name, but I am unfamiliar.
No, isn't that the political guy in the States? Obama's
arranger and producer,
political strategist.
Of soul music during the 70s and.
That Axelrod. Okay, is he on CTI at all? No, he didn't do that.
No. No. Come on. And what is interesting with this is that it features the brass of George Bohannon, but it also features the vocals of Lou Rawls and Raskas, who Jason will probably know of, because this was released actually on Mowax. So there is a connection into modernity and zeitgeist. It's not David Axelrod doing catering to his old audience. It is that plus him opening up to the music of the new generation and embracing it and collaborating. So this is like a concept album, which is already kind of what David Axelrod was doing. But yeah, this was a total alien release for 2001. It came out of nowhere. And of course, on a label that was still kind of had the pulse on what was modern and relevant at the beginning of at the new century.
I know more of the one you mentioned, Lou Rawls, than I know about Axelrod himself.
You have just look David Axelrod on Discogs, and you'll see the credits of who he's worked with, and you probably have a ton of record of his.
No, I have Lou Rawls though. I bought one this week.
Yeah, I've heard of the name, but I cannot think of. I don't think I might have heard something that was either created or performed by him, but I don't know what it is.
I can't get beyond that name.
Maybe it is because he
CNN.
was a political straight. Yeah,
I might have something, but I have to check it out. I don't know the name right now.
because you're a bunch of Philistines, then I go and
I know.
I'll just break the rules as well and destroy Chris' next entry by showing the best Fugazi record on Discord
Oh,
from 2002, 2001, or 2001 actually. In my opinion, the best record of Fugazi, because it's when Jan Mackey starts to actually know how to sing. And there's a song there called the Argument. This is I think it's the name of the album as well. Yeah, and it is Fugazi, but less hardcore and more like punk rock.
yeah. I always liked the other singer better. The Italian guy. He was a better singer.
I'll have to look that one up. I have one Fugazi album, and they have
This
such
is
a
the
big
last one they
catalog.
did. They haven't done any new studio stuff since then, even if they haven't officially split up.
They didn't officially split up. Wow.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll need to check that out because I like the Fugazi record that I have, but their catalog is so huge that
No, they only have like 6 albums.
it
Yeah,
seems
that's
like
pretty
there was a lot
big.
more.
It's pretty big for a band like that.
To Ottaker, Nurse with Wound.
Well, no, but those are whole
Corey,
other-
Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else then.
I don't have that Fugazi record. I have Up to Steady Diet of Nothing. I think is the last one I got. By then, maybe End Hits. I think I have End Hits. But,
you have
yeah.
this one, Chris?
I don't have that one either, so
I have In on the Kill Taker.
I keep buying records and I keep not having records.
Yes, isn't
Impossible.
that always the
Yeah.
problem? Keep buying records, but then you go, shit, I don't have that one. All right. Jason, what have you got for us?
Okay, I'm going to do a little dose of hip hop. I think it's time for that. A little dose of underground hip hop. I got 4 records to show here, and I've always been saying I only do golden era, but look at me with all these late 90s and 2000s hip hop. This is the great stuff on Raucous, right? High and Mighty, Dick Starbuck, the porno detective, and one of the guys from Dilated Peoples. This Raucous label out of New York, underground hip hop I've shown before. Of course, this was one of the biggest names on their label too, Mos Def. Few people heard of him. Might have heard of Ghostface Killah. Yeah, Miss Fat Booty too. This is an awesome track too. Got a really cool chorus vocal sample on there. From the Lyricist Lounge 2 compilation.
That's a single, right?
This is the single. Yeah, I'm spoiler alert, I'm probably gonna show the Lyricist Lounge CD later. From Canada. So Swollen Members. I think out of Vancouver.
It's
Camouflage.
not about what you think it is.
Yeah. All those dirty minds out there. I'm just been dirty today. Battle Axe
It
Records.
sounds like a rather turgid record.
This is really funky and crisp and clean. It's pretty cool. Cool stuff. Instrumentals. I got doubles of this actually. And then last but not least, Push Button Objects, which is actually just one artist. Stunty, do you know this one?
Wait, I have every push button.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. This is a little bit experimental hip hop. There's beats.
Yeah, it's beats. It's instrumental hip hop. But
Yeah.
this guy is from Miami. He's a scumbag, by the way. But,
Oh, is he? Okay.
Total scumbag.
He's not a Nazi or anything, but okay.
No. Just according to his dearest and closest friends, he's a scumbag.
Okay. Well, it's a good
But
record
his music
though.
is good, yeah. It's really good instrumental
Good
hip
record,
hop
yeah.
that can appeal to people who are not even into hip hop, I would say.
Yes. In fact, I usually put it in my IDM section. Sometimes I put it in IDM.
Huh, okay.
Controversial.
So you're one of those record sellers that when I go into the store, I can't figure out how you got things organized.
Got a lot of different categories you've never heard of, maybe. Yeah.
Or you put it someplace where I expect to find it someplace else.
Yeah.
It took me a long time, because one of the record stores that I go to here in Chicago, I always want to go and check where, if they have any new Coil releases or if they have any new, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Nurse with Wound. And it's weird how they, Coil, for some reason, they put in industrial rock. And Nurse with Wound, they put with, I can't even remember where they put that one. It's just it's just
Experimental music.
Makes no sense.
Maybe they put it in experimental music or whatever.
I looked for it in experimental. Where I ended up finding it is, again, I can't remember where. Maybe Nurse with Wound wasn't an experimental.
You
And
can
then
find
Aphex Twin, they have usually just in plain old rock.
Wow. Okay.
Which is
I've seen Coil in the metal section. Skinny Puppy sometimes in the metal section here.
Yeah.
Because of the themes, I guess, and the cover art.
Well, the industrial is right next to the metal section,
Right, keep it
in
close.
this store. So
I've seen trans people who support Trump also.
It's true. Actually, some of the voters who voted for Obama also voted for Donald Trump. How does that work? I don't know.
That's all has to do with
It's America.
It's hating the Clintons for some reason.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on. Jorgen.
And didn't he have four records to show? Did he show 4?
I showed 4.
Okay.
Yep, I did.
Uh,
I actually showed 4.
what I'm going to show now, if you don't know this one, I will leave the screen.
Oh my god.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know it.
It's a challenge.
I know it. I'm sure I know it.
Stunty knows it.
2001 then, but we had 2000 last time, 2001 now. And of course I'm showing the Depeche Mode.
Oh shit, I don't know it actually.
Oh my god, yeah. What was that band?
That cover looks dirty.
This is album that came out 2001, and I have ranked. I don't think that any Depeche Mode album is bad. But when I, for a video that I made, had to rank the Depeche Mode album, I put this in one of the lowest places, though.
Dead last.
One of the last, yes.
Yeah.
Though I still think it's a great album, but I don't know. It's something about the sound that is a little.
It's not for you. But look, tell us, read the name of the producer, and that will explain a lot.
Yeah, no, Mark Bell.
Yeah.
Did you get any comments from people who loved that album when you did the ranking video?
I'm a huge fan of Mark Bell, LFO, who produces that, and I also think this album is pretty boring. But I think it's, I don't think Depeche Mode was in a really a good place back then.
I don't think that is a bad album, but it is comparing to the other one albums, it is a little lesser good. If you say like this. When I said that this was, I didn't get. Many said that this is an album that many consider a little bit of a lowdown. I remember when I heard the first single, "Dream On," I thought it was okay, but it was Depeche Mode. Not that I wanted to know. Now I knew that Depeche Mode had said that the first single that they released from an album nowadays, when this came, is of a different Depeche Mode style. Then the singles after are typical Depeche Mode style, and they were right, because the other singles, "I Feel Loved" and "Free Love" was really, really great. It's classic Depeche.
Is it this one, the single?
No, the Darkest Star is no single of them.
It's not on that album? It's on the next one? Okay.
No, not here. It is a great album. Not their best, but it's a great album. And with that, I also managed to find Depeche Mode Exciter Tour, a bootleg, live bootleg, with songs from the Exciter album. So, but Exciter, Depeche Mode, of course. When it comes to 2001, of course, I consider this the best album in 2001. I would be ashamed if I didn't see that. But
well, that's just, again, I have some Depeche Mode, and then there's others I don't have. And as Chris was saying earlier, maybe it was you, it's just more and more you realize what records you don't have. Chris did a ranking of REM, and this was one of the releases that came out, the falls within this, and he ranked it really low. And in fact, when I was watching it, I wrote the note down that he said it was boring. And so,
Yes, I did.
yes, but actually, kind of like what Jurgen is saying, while this is certainly not as good as many of the earlier releases, it is a record that I like. I like and enjoy listening to it. I don't think it's boring at all, but that's not the record that I wanted to show.
Because I'm going to admit, I haven't listened to that record since I made that video.
It feels that every single week someone here is showing an REM record.
No, that's because they just made so many goddamn records.
Yeah, you guys are
I also agree that this is not a boring album. I think it's a great album.
Reveal?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So going to vinyl. Yay, this is what it's about, right? So this record here was released in 2001, was it? 2003, excuse me, 2003. And and as I started listening more and more to African blues, Northwest African music, I gradually found out about Tinariwen. And I really wanted to see them. They were going to come to Chicago and play here at a very small venue. And they were in Great Britain just before they were supposed to come to the U.S., but apparently they couldn't get a visa to come into the U.S. And so at first the show got rescheduled and pushed into the future, like 5 months or something like that. I still had my ticket, but then it got canceled altogether. I don't know what the problem was, but in terms, if you think of Mdou Moctar being a very guitar centric in terms of, he knows how to play guitar. Mdou Moctar. I mean, he is just an amazing guitar player, and he's doing it in this style, but he also really incorporates a lot of rock sentimentalities into his playing. Tinariwen is the very stripped down essence of the Saharan blues, and the band members have been around for a long time. They're all, I'm going to say, fairly much older. I think they come from an area of Algeria originally, or at least their tribal connections are from an area in there. But they are, I think, make their residence. I should have looked this up to remember if it was in Mali or if it's in Mali or if it's in Niger. But anyway, an amazing album. They've got several that are being reissued, and they're all, at least the ones that I have picked up, very, very high quality recordings, and the pressings. They sound really, really good. And so if you like blues, I mean, this is, I'm very confident in saying that you're going to like this. And then it'll also be introducing you to the style of playing from that region of Africa, because it's very distinct. I mean, when you listen to blues, there's a lot of different blues songs, but they're basically playing the same thing, just a little bit different over and over again. And I mean, really, it's, how many different blues constructions are there? But it's the individual style of the player that makes each song sound unique. And one blues player sounds different from another blues player. And that's like this with the Tinariwen and with the Tuareg style of blues and Saharan blues. So that's a great album from there. And yes, you've got the Reveal also CD. Yeah, I would check them out. If you haven't listened to Tinariwen, I would definitely check them out. Maybe it says here in the liner notes where they're from. Yeah, they're from Mali. They're now based in Mali.
I have a download of theirs. I don't have any physical format, my understanding is I think some of the people in the band, and it's been pretty fluid over the years. I think some of them are originally from Algeria. I think
Yeah.
one of the guys in the band, his father had been executed because he was a Tuareg rebel. The Tuareg people who have been at odds with the various governments.
Well, you know, and in Gaddafi, especially under Gaddafi, there was a lot of conscription going on with the desert people, and so yeah, they were very much. It is a rebellious form of music in some respects, but also the music is really just it's an expression of both the beauty and hardships of desert living.
Yeah, and to answer Jason's question, no, this is very different from the Zamrock
Oh yeah,
Zambian style, which is they're much further south in Africa.
Right.
yeah, that's way down by South Africa and Kenya.
Yeah.
And,
And they weren't doing just blues; they were doing more rock, a
There's
whole
more funk.
spectrum, funk
Yeah.
rock. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny.
So-
I think it's. I feel like it's a little odd to to hear about blues music being made. Like, is this like traditional style blues being made in 2000?
No, it's not traditional blues.
No,
What it is,
okay.
it's the traditional Tuareg music, which has a very blues feel to it.
Oh,
My
okay.
theory is that this is the original blues. That the Tuareg music and the music of the Sahara is where blues came from, because the majority of Africans that were brought over to the U.S. Enslaved, which American blues rose out of the music created by the slaves. Most of them were coming from Northwest Africa. They came from Nigeria, from Liberia, from that area of Africa, and so this is a very traditional style of music. That's what I hear. I'm hearing the roots of this is where the blues came from.
Yeah,
From-
but at the same time, these people have also heard the Western music as well.
Right, so they've incorporated.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, like for example, Abdul Mokhtar very much incorporates Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix and Prince are his three primary Western guitar heroes, so to speak. And then I hear a lot of John Lee Hooker when I listen to Narwhal. So was John Lee Hooker influenced by the traditional African style of the Saharan blues, or is John Lee Hooker influencing the present day Saharan blues? Doesn't matter. It's just all just really great music.
But a lot of these bands from that area, from the northern east, west, like the Saharahan region, the Tuareg, most of these were this is before being blues or whatever. This is wedding music.
Right, that's how they made their living. They played wedding parties,
Yeah.
other social events that were tied into the culture in terms of not just weddings, but other significant life events.
The party after the ceremony. That's the
Yeah.
music that we're doing.
Yeah, and So more and more, I've been listening to Narwhal. Of course, there's Abdul Mokhtar. There's also I'll have to go pull a record of another one who's considered the Farka Touré.
Ali Farka Touré, yeah.
Yeah, he's considered the grandfather of modern African blues and Saharan blues. And then I have a record by him and a record by his son. So very, very much the lineage of music is actually often handed down through the family. I mean, that's why you got people who are doing the tours of some of these, like Fela Kuti. It's his son, Femi Kuti, who is carrying on the tradition.
One of his songs, like all his songs. He has so
Yeah,
many songs.
well, right. That band, they played in, it was a free concert here in Chicago this last summer. It was a just absolutely amazing show there in Grant Park. All right.
It was like Ed Topo is making this comment that the Dryads started blues and rap. It's totally true. If you listen to a lot of the music that some of the jazz players from the spiritual jazz side of things, like Don Cherry, who actually Ed has played with, and when he went to Sweden, and all the Swedish musicians who were into that, they all went to Senegal in the late 60s, early 70s, and learned the music and the instruments, the local instruments, which is why a lot of that free jazz got very spiritual, because it got the blues as well.
It's all fascinating music.
Yeah, interesting to know those connections.
And more of that is being pressed on vinyl now, because the way that music was distributed largely was people would make phone recordings and then send it through their phones, and then that's how the music was spread, in the Saharan and sub-Saharan regions. So there was not a lot of physical. You either heard them live or you were listening to a recording on your phone. And now records like Sahil Records and other labels are putting
way more interesting than getting another Beatles box set, I think, probably.
Oh yeah.
A box set for each album, like the Rubber Soul box set. Like, do we need that? I mean, who needs that? Why would someone need
theory
a box
how
set?
we squeeze out money from the record buyer.
Yeah, from boomers, and it's sad. I don't know.
I played that record quite often this year. It's one of my favorite records from this label called Sarah and Tate or something. It's an American label. And they have this series of WhatsApp music, which is basically how that music that you're talking about currently, the way it is recorded, it's not recorded in a studio. It's recorded through an iPhone.
Yeah.
And then it's the distribution, it's not records, it's WhatsApp. People just send each other the music that way. So it never really reaches the traditional distribution modes. And the fact that it reaches us is kind of a miracle, an ethnographical miracle.
Yeah, there's also another thing too that
fantastic job of distributing a lot of this music.
Yeah, another thing too I've heard from like DJs from like South Africa, they often like it's all through the taxis and the Ubers kind of thing. So like the taxi driver gets like the hottest tracks and they play them in their taxi, and then that kind of like builds up the rep of the song, and then people request the song based on what they hear in these drivers. There's like this, it's a different model, right? It's a totally different distro model than.
Well, it is kind of amazing that that it's made it over here on the other side of the ocean, and is in getting some more notice. Because Abdul Makhtar is still playing very small venues where there may be 400 or 500 people at the most in there, but to me he is the reincarnation of Jimi Hendrix. He is a fantastic musician and very skilled player, and he can make that guitar talk.
What Jason mentioned about the taxi distribution,
for DJ,
reminds me of Q Lazarus. Goodbye Horses, the track. That the fact that the track, you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
Q Lazarus, Goodbye Horses. The track that is being played during the scene in The Silence of the Lamb, when there's the cross-dressing of the bad guy who's dancing.
I don't remember that, so I'll have to.
It's one of the best new wave post-punk songs of the 80s, and Q Lazarus, she was a taxi driver and she was playing her song in her cab, trying to get traction in New York. And one day, Jonathan Deeney was the guy who entered her cab, and she played it. He didn't know who he was, but he loved the song, and he made his mission to include that song in a movie of his, and it became Silence of the Lamb.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
All right, Chris, what have you got for us?
Well, this
Any
is
African music?
This is going to be boring compared to what we've just seen. I'm going to show two records from 2001. These are both by very popular American rock bands. And the two records I'm showing are, in my opinion, the best of these respective bands. So I'm going to show the White Stripes, White Blood Cells, This would be the album before Seven Nation Army, so there's no Seven Nation Army on this one. But songs like Hotel Yorba, Union
Never heard of them.
Forever, I Think I Smell a Rat. There's a lot of really cool songs on here. This is my that was the year before. Yours is 2000, Richard.
Was that ever distributed or played on the radio?
Or in a taxi cab somewhere.
Or-
I'm pretty sure it was not passed around on SIM cards in Mali, but
No, but where could we have heard that?
Video, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe in a football stadium or something?
No, they weren't big yet, right? Were they
Yeah.
big?
No, the next album was the football
Yeah.
music.
Oh.
So you had to be an underground hipster in America. to
Ah,
hear this.
that's why I don't
Yes,
know about
yeah.
it.
You had to live in Detroit, but listen
Yeah.
to rock.
Yeah, and
Oh.
then the other album I'm going to show is System of a Down, Toxicity. So I know I'm probably making Stunty ill, but I mean, as I said, I had this on my iPod, and so like when I would run and stuff, this would be like one of my favorite exercise records. And
Is that on the American recordings?
It is, I think.
yes.
Uh.
So
Okay.
this
It's a
is
big
the-
album.
What's that?
That's a popular album, right?
Yeah, it was a very popular album, the most popular album of their career. They only made a few more albums after this, so I would consider this to be kind of their peak. So
I have a shitty metal record to show later, too.
That's
So-
all right.
my thing, I said this when I showed the other System of a Down record a couple weeks ago. I deny their new metal the same way that people who like Soundgarden or Alice in Chains deny that they're grunge. So
Right. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I almost sold a Soundgarden record last night, but I held back just briefly. It may make the cut someday.
Oh, all right. Well, Stunty, what have you got for us?
I got a bunch of hip hop as well. My turn to show some hip hop records.
Hip hop.
One record that was kind of a game changer. This Cannibalox, The Cold Vein, produced by LP after when he founded the Def Jux album label. This is very boring artwork, but back then it was it still is like a landmark of like 2000s hip hop. Another one, but from the other side of the pond, if you go to the UK, with one of the biggest crossover hip hop tracks ever. Someone has heard of that, right? So, no?
No.
I've heard of it, but
Witness One Hope. Come on. Someone has heard that. Okay.
Now you know
Well,
how I felt.
it's not on Raucous, so.
Well, not on Raucous, but almost, as it was on 75 Arc, Anti-Pop Consortium's first real album, which was totally a game changer in the way it was accepted how to rap. They later, after that one, they got signed to Warp thanks to that. Another different way to rap when hip-hop started to get lo-fi and indie for real, Cloud Dead, which features what's his name? I don't remember the name of the. Anyways, this became famous because this was so underground. This was original release as 4 EPs on Anticon, and I forget the name of the rapper on this, but he is famous because he's the one guy who ever like humiliated Eminem in a freestyle battle, and him not being at all on the big label.
I don't think Stunty's got Nelly for some reason. I might.
What?
It's getting hot in here.
yeah.
So Deltron the 3033 Del da Funky Homo Sapien. This is kind of the following to Dr. Octagon, still produced by the people from Dr. Octagon, but shifting from Cool Keith to Del da Funky Homo Sapien as the rapper. And there's a couple of tracks co-produced by Mark Bell from LFO on this. This is amazing. This is really fun, joyful, creative, inventive, and melodic
Hey.
rap that is beyond rap in a way.
Del was Ice Cube's cousin, wasn't he? I think.
Something like that. And he also released
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I have that album. I got a bootleg of that. Is that a bootleg as well?
No, that's the original.
Very hard to get that OG.
And Del was also in Haiku d'Etat,
Didn't know that. Didn't know about that one.
which is like the other guys from his main band called the Freestyle Fellowship.
Yeah.
And he's just featuring. This is AC Alone, Mika 9, and Abstract Rude. Mika 9 could rap like Mozart was playing, composing the harpsichord.
I love the title of that.
Yeah, it's a great, yeah. Also, someone who got his beginning in 2000, Aesop Rock, the first Aesop Rock album. Also,
yeah.
Buck 65. I got his album somewhere here. I couldn't find it today. But this is Aesop's very first album on vinyl. There's one that came out before on CD only. And something.
I should look that up because I have one Aesop Rock, but that is from 2018. I think it's from.
Okay. Well, it's become quite more alternative pop rock. In the beginning, he's just a great freestyler with a great vocal. Actually, the first time I saw him, it was live in France in a festival with Cannibalox, the first record I showed, the three of them together, and the music behind was made by Kevin Martin from Techno Animal with Justin Broderick from Godflesh, Napalm Death. It was just insane. And something
Too much cross genre there.
Yeah, Labrai with James C. Cotton. This is instrumental, as the name says. This was kind of a game changer of like between instrumental hip hop and IGM, techno, and stuff like that. And lastly, for this little round, again, Anti-Pop Consortium featuring Matthew Sheep. So a crossover between New York avant-garde hip hop with jazz, free jazz, spiritual jazz. As this also features William Parker on bass, Ken Jamal on vibes, Daniel Carter on the trumpet, and Guillermo Brown on drums. This is an insanely good album. That, like, if you don't like hip hop, this is the rapping coming from what Ed was talking about, like the griot, the kind of singing that came from Senegal, Nigeria, all these places, but like from a New York avant-garde perspective, with the jazz players that were probably the most in tune with that culture at the time.
Yeah, Stunty's showing a lot of kind of left field hip hop, like fusion, a little bit experimental.
No, these were big records back then.
They were, yeah, for that year, those years, yeah. Not in a Nelly kind of big way, but yeah.
No, but like
Lovell's got a comment there. I saw the Hieroglyphics live before. Souls of Mischief, saw them live. I don't know if Del joined them on stage, but
no, of course no. The Freestyle Fellowship was Souls of Mischief, Del, and Mika 9, and a bunch of others.
So Del, the Funky, Homo Sapien, and Souls of Mischief are still kind of, they're in the golden era, like the
For
end.
those who, also another connection for those people who are totally ignorant with that, Del is the rapper in Gorillaz.
Huh?
Gorillaz. Gorillaz, the band.
Oh, Gorillas. Oh, yeah. I didn't catch your accent. I never liked Gorillas either. Gorillas is like a fake band, right? It's like a cartoon band that was very popular in the 2000s.
Yeah, the Monkees are a real band. Gorillas are a fake band.
Something like that, yeah. I love the Monkees. There you go. Richard's got it. Okay.
It was good pop music, really good. Damon Albarn from Blur, Del.
It's a concept, and I think that's great.
There's a
when Clint Eastwood came, I thought that one I still think is utterly crap. But then the following thing, 2000 came. I thought that one was. I realized how that is really, really good actually. So they had done bad. Some of them done really good. Some of them.
Well, I'll be talking about that later, unless somebody else shows that Gorillaz record. So, but anyway,
I'm not a fan of pop fusion. All right, I have a big stack here to go through. I'm going to talk about my favorite subgenre of the early 2000s, which has nothing to do with fusion. Maybe Stunty will find the fusion element, but I'm talking about minimal IDM glitch techno, and this compilation, Clicks and Cuts, completely encapsulates that on the Mill Plateau label, and reference to Gilles Deleuze and Guattari philosophy. So yeah, this has everybody on this from that kind of era and genre: Kit Clayton, Dettinger, Reinhard Voigt, who's been mentioned. Another
SND, all these,
big compilation that year, Force Inc. I was just eating all this stuff up. I started my master's degree and I was like a TA, so I had a little TA money, and I just buy all these techno records. Dettinger, love this record, Oasis. He's on the Compact label. Then he disappeared. He had like 1 or 2 records and disappeared. Farben, Jan Jelnik, I already showed something by him. Thomas Jericho. This is all minimal, micro house, glitch. And all this stuff was being made digitally, right? Like I said before, using Ableton software was kind of new. This guy probably was using some analog stuff. Thomas Brinkman.
Thomas Brinkman was basically his main instrument was the turntable, on which he applied like massive weight on the
needle.
The needle, so it would basically destroy the records.
Make this noise, yeah.
It would record like the result of that through different effects and.
He's a pretty experimental guy. He came over to Montreal and performed at Mutech and stuff, and very cool. This was a cool label too for that genre, Scape, which is Pole's label, I think, from Berlin. Cool compilation. There's another one of those minimalists. Like, look at the, even the artwork can kind of give you a sense of minimalism. SND. These guys are from England.
I need that one.
Yeah, these guys are from England. It's a double record.
This is one of the records I missed for some reason.
Yeah, I picked it up for some reason. I'm happy I did, and the price tag's still in there, $19.99 Canadian. I'm sure it sells for a lot more now online.
I wish you didn't like it.
Okay, I'll show some CDs then, because nobody knew what I just showed. So, from the year 2000 was a big heavy metal band. Jürgen, you have this one?
Over My Dead Body.
Over My Dead Body. Guess what?
I have it, Jason.
There's a really good song on here, The Wicker Man. The first track is fucking killer. I never listened to the rest of it though.
How was that music distributed? How might I have encountered it?
Iron Maiden?
Yeah.
It's very hard to get. You'll have to get the box set. This is a horrible metal band, I think.
They re-release it every year. It's almost
Cradle
as
of-
popular as the Beatles.
Yeah, I have, I think, 3 copies of that Iron Maiden CD, just oddly enough. Cradle of Filth. Were these guys Swedish? I don't know.
No, they're British.
They're British. Yeah, so they were like black metal, but then they became pop, like pop black metal. Is
The
that a
guy
thing?
from Cradle of Filth, he's a movie director now. He's doing porn movies and horror porn movies.
Okay, so we'll put that away.
He's like he's
and
going
then-
to be the new Glenn Danzig.
And we have Lyricist Lounge 2. Raucous label. And that's all from the 2000s. This one I think is from 2001 or 2. This is the man, the god, Halford. Rob Halford does his solo stuff. He's leaving Judas Priest in 2000s. And I've seen him live twice with his solo stuff.
Because the cover looks a little more like towards the Nine Inch Nails kind of stuff. It's more minimal, industrial.
What a legend.
How does the music sound, Jason?
Halford? Halford's good. Yeah, it's good. It's
No,
good heavy metal.
What? It's just his regular stuff, or is it
Regular heavy metal. Sounds like Judas Priest, but without Priest. Because I've seen him live a couple times play this stuff. I don't recognize any of the songs because it's not Priest, but it sounds like Priest. There you go. Maiden.
Then this is the one from 2003 with the terrible cover. I don't know where's Eddie. I don't know.
Yeah, I had that on vinyl and I sold it for $100. It was like picture discs and shit. It was
And
awful music.
How much is it worth now?
200 probably. Maiden fans, they'll buy anything all the time.
I have all the Maiden on CD because I found somebody who was getting rid of all their physical format and sold it all as a lot.
Okay, that's a good way to get it all.
I had a boss who was an Iron Maiden fan.
You only really need the first 4 or 5, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, well.
yeah.
But Jorgen, just get Number of the Beast. You'll be set.
I don't know what Jorgen's waiting for. This is pop music. Iron Maiden? Come on now.
Is it pop music?
All right, Jorgen.
That's a segue.
Pop music.
Since Jason has shown heavy metal, I'm going to pick up the old feud between heavy metal fans and synth pop fans. And I'm going synth pop. Because in 2000, one of the few things I liked about new music from 2000 and to 2004 was the rebirth of synth pop, Swedish synth pop. It was all of a sudden great synth pop bands, Swedish, and I have 3 examples. This is Space Age Baby Jane, which is more or less one-man project, and it is not a pure synth pop band because they did this album is synth pop. It is a magnificent album. They are more or less bought when it was new. But they did after this. He moved on to do more indie stuff and so on. But this is a great album. As is this. This is a band called Camera or Camera, with an self-titled debut. Also a fantastic new wave synth pop of modern style. Also a band that moved on to do a little more indie stuff, but actually way better than Space Age Baby Jane's indie stuff. So this is a band that I think they made 3 albums. I have all 3, and really great. This is also a band that became had some hit chart success. This is Barbie. Also, as you can see on their style, there also is synth pop. Losing Control was their biggest hit. So in 2000 to 2004, Swedish synth pop actually ruled and were really great.
Jürgen, are you familiar with a band from Sweden called Sally Shapiro?
No.
She's kind of like the underground of that kind of stuff. It's all more disco, but synth pop disco, and she's still around. She made like an amazing record like around 2004-5 or so, and she just released a new album. I think you would like that.
Well, what's the name of her again?
Sally Shapiro.
Okay.
It's a duo actually, but yeah. And I mean, Robin is also coming from that area in a way. She's a little bit before that, but she was really getting especially in Sweden, she was getting or is it more recent that she got like a kind of a comeback, like a renewed interest? Jürgen? Robin.
Who? Robin. I'm going to come back to Robin in the next round.
Okay.
But Robin made her last album, I think it was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. No, she's a very interesting pop singer. Very interesting.
I love Robin. I have more or less. I don't have the last one, but before that, I have all her albums.
I've danced a few times with her. She's a party girl.
What is the episode I started with? Gosh, I don't know. I don't save them.
76 or 77, I think.
Yeah, because this is number 27. So, and this is the first time we've done I've done multi years. So, but yeah, I don't save them. I mean, when these go up on YouTube, they're there for a while, but then I delete them after a while because I don't want to go beyond.
Dwell in the past.
Yeah, it's all feeding the FOMO. So, but as long as somebody, it was brought up, then I was going to.
Richard's going to remaster them and release them next year.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm gonna bring
on
up
his Patreon.
I'm gonna bring up Gorillas. So this one was from 2001, not their first one. All right, this is actually this is from 2005. This one is. I don't know why I called it their first one. This one, and then I also have Plastic Beach, but that'll be next week. We'll talk about that. So, yeah, I've really enjoyed Gorillas and the concept of what they have done. And yeah, they've got some, you guys were talking about some of the people who appear on here. So they've got additional vocals by Mihu Hattori, and then some raps by Del the Funky Homo Sapien, and also Dan the Automator.
And the Automator is the producer who also did the Deltron record I showed, and who also is behind the Dr. Octagon, which is yeah.
Tina Weymouth shows up on here. Ibrahim Ferrer. But
Gorillaz is really the project of Damon Albarn and
Right.
Jamie Hewlett, the artist who does the drawings, who was
Yes.
the creator of Tank Girl.
And there's a really interesting, just fantastic artwork that's, going in here. There's a really interesting video that you can find that talks about the genesis of this project, where the characters, the cartoon characters came from. Who are they? What's their backstory?
But Richard, I don't know if they mentioned that, but in that documentary, but Jamie Hewlett, who is the artist there, he used to be. So he co-created Tank Girl, who used to be run in a British magazine called Deadline, which was probably the first attempt at talking about indie rock and techno and comic books. So they had exclusive British comic books. That's where Tank Girl was first published. And of course, they were covering the early Brit pop, which was Blur. And that was how they met, through the magazine Deadline that I used to collect.
So what's interesting about this, I also have this one on CD. You've got the song Clint Eastwood on here, which I really like. And in fact, it was when I used to jog, it was one of the songs in my mix that I would listen to while I was out doing my run. Then on this one, they have a song called Dirty Harry. So, there are some Clint Eastwood references, but then, the obvious homage or whatever to the Beatles, Let It Be cover. Let It Be cover. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed. I like it. I like the stuff, and I like the concept. The whole, because there are, when you think about it, there are a lot of bands that got together, and in fact, in my next round, I'm going to talk about a band that essentially was not a band; it was a concept that was created for one release, was created by some musicians from some relatively popular indie groups. But I will leave that as a mystery for my next turn. So then that will bring us over
I actually
to.
think that the Gorillaz did a great song this year called New Gold. Highly recommended.
One thing also,
I'm surprised by how many records they've put out. So I haven't listened to all of them.
The concept with Gorillaz also is that on that album, it's Dan the Automator who's producing the beats, and like Luder is behind the Handsome Boy Modeling School. He also worked with Mike Patton. He also worked with DJ Craze. But each album is with a new producer, and so that they kind of try to keep relevant, more or less.
And each one's going to have a different feel, a different sound. It's
the second one was Danger Mouse, if I remember correctly.
Is he still around though? Like, I feel like he's no longer relevant, Dan the Animator.
Dan the Automator. No, he's doing. I mean, you don't listen to hip hop anymore because
I don't. It's true.
All right. Well, Chris, what do you have for us?
All right, show a couple records from 2002. So just like 2001, I'm going to be showing favorite albums of mine from a couple of fairly well-known bands. So we have Slater Kinney. This is the album One Beat. I think this is not a standard choice for the best Slater Kinney album, but it's the choice I'm making. I think the song Light Rail Coyote is their best song ever. The ending song Sympathy is a really strong song. And I know people will tend to like the album that came after this in 2005 called The Woods, or maybe a couple of the albums from the late 90s. But I like this one. And then this is a band that this is really the only album of theirs I've ever really been able to get into, but Songs for the Deaf by Queens of the Stone Age. So you've got the songs are all kind of strung together. We're listening to it on a car radio theme. And this is something I was listening to at the time. And as I explained at the very beginning of the show, this was right when I was starting my career as a professor, and I was pretty much out of picking up new music and going to shows for the most part, especially during this probably this decade, the 2000s. So, and I know it's all way too guitar centered for most of you guys, but hey, that's what I have.
I love guitar-centric rock. I mean, that's what I grew up with in the 70s. It was all about the guitar, and there was other music that I liked, but blues and rock to me, those were my go-to genres of music.
Yeah, and the Queens of the Stone Age was like a super group of he crossed over between stoner, metal, grunge, and folk, like blue. Yeah.
All right. Well, Stunty, then you've got some.
Just gonna show a couple of quickly. One that is another of the big super groups of that time. A band that first started weirdly enough, they put out 2 EPs on DMAC. DMAC is the label of Steve Aoki, which shouldn't be very promising, but this is the first Battles record. Battles is basically Tyondai Braxton, who's the son of Anthony Braxton, the free jazz avant-garde music composer, with with the guy from Helmet, the guy from Don Caballero, and the guy from Lynx. So this really is math rock in a way, but it is also something else. And this was I remember seeing them in a contemporary art foundation in Paris, and that was just incredible. The energy of these guys coming from guitar music as well, but doing something I don't know, it felt like really the stuff that was really exciting up until like 96 and that kind of faded or disappeared. They were really taking over in a relay the baton and really succeeding at making this really fresh and relevant again. And to this day, they've done a few records after that, but this is still my favorite, which is an EP. I'm sure some of you have heard of them. And like, what else did I have for this round?
I actually saw that record. I know I saw it in a store someplace. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't pick it up. But I remember seeing that record in a store someplace.
And I showed a bunch of hip hop records. I'm just going to show another one, but like my favorite one from that area, the first Prefuse 73 album that came out on Warp. I remember this guy is from the US, and he was actually picked to be the guy who would produce the second Gorillaz album because of this record. And the biggest mistake in his career, he declined and offered that to his pal Danger Mouse, who was an upcoming wannabe Prefuse 73 back then. When this came out in 2001, I remember the guy had released a few stuff under other names on my friend's label in Miami, Schematic, and so I had a CDR of this a year before it came out, and everyone was so excited about it. And when he came to do his first gig in London, like everyone from all over Europe who was into that, we went to that just to see this, to experience this. This also features again Del, the funky Homo sapien, but it is basically kind of like when Jason was showing this Click and Cuts record. This is Otaker. This is the Otakerization of hip hop, and this is amazing. So you got really this chopped up, glitchy beats, but also with great melodies, great bass lines, great keyboards, very soulful, or not really funky, but also like electro hip hop. It was just new. It felt like nothing else back then, and to this date, I mean, he's done. It's a double LP. To this date, he's done quite a few projects in so many different styles of music, and he's become a great producer for all kinds of music. But this is, to me, still the record I enjoy the most of his.
Yeah, again with the fusion, kind of. Yeah, the fusion of the glitch production with hip hop.
It's not really fusion if you think about it. What was Mantronic, Chef Nunez? They were using the same techniques. It was already like at the root of hip hop is the cut-up. The hip hop is electronic in essence. Since, it was made using tape and cutting and slicing, etc. And it's like going back to this rather than to the 90s sample culture, which in my opinion is way less interesting, but it has its value as well. But yeah.
Well, it's more retro, right? It's got that nostalgia for the sample era.
No, because like sample. What do you mean? That sample is nostalgic?
Well, I think beyond you or maybe me, there's not many people who have a nostalgia for the early 2000s glitch era of techno, right? Like it's just not a nostalgic era.
There's tons of that. SMG is like the really having a renaissance, and all this stuff has been a renaissance. And that was also like, when you think about that electro, the early electro that was hip hop, that comes from the same technique as musique concrète, which is the ground of electronic music. And there is more electronic music in the early Beastie Boys and Mantronics and Grace Jones and all this stuff than in all the 90s hip hop, which was basically sample based. It was just about finding a cool
funk,
funky or soulful, and looping it, which is like the most lazy electronic work you can do on music. It can be very creative, but still.
Well, I'm glad Chris is back because I have an indie rock special coming up here.
All right.
He's going to know this band.
All right. Well, then let's see what you got.
Maybe even Jurgen's heard of this band. This was the biggest band of 2001. I think they were from.
Find that record anywhere.
I think they were from New York City. You can order this from Juno, UK. By the way, they've had this sexy bum version. Mine's still sealed because I've heard this record so many times I don't need to open it and listen to it. In fact, I've had a couple copies of this and sold it and rebought it. I don't know why. I love the Strokes at the time, right? So I got the singles as well.
This is not really indie though. It's more like a revival of garage rock.
New York City Cops.
I would agree with Fonty, not much indie.
1251. This came from 2003. Yeah, what is the verdict these days on the Strokes? Like, were they good or not? Was it just trendy?
Well, that first record you held up to me is like one that's on my want list. I've been wanting to get this for so long. I never see it, and
it's very indie kind of. Yeah.
No,
it's
Last Night.
To me, it's kind of an important and influential album.
Saturday Night Live, they were on. I was going to show some LCD sound system with Daft Punk, playing Daft Punk, but this is 2005, so we'll get to that next video maybe. But
you already cheated by showing.
I cheated with that 2005.
You.
I don't have a lot of indie rock, but I would consider this in my indie
No, this
category.
is rock. This is straight up rock. This has nothing indie. This is like the revival of garage that was
That's my round.
started by them and what was the other bands? The Vines and the British band. You know the guy who was
The Hives.
It-
The Hives were
it's
kind of
indie-
more interesting.
It's indie because boomers don't listen to it.
Ah, now we got it. Okay, that's yeah. The Strokes. Yeah, they haven't discovered this yet, right? They're like, what is that Strokes thing?
All right, then Jorgen, representing the Boomers.
Come on, Jorgen. You know what? And 2 hours have passed, and we haven't seen Ace of Base yet. So I don't know. Do they have a
Don't
2000 album?
Don't
You
tempt
really
the
want me to
devil,
pick them out?
Jason.
Don't tempt the devil.
You want me to pick it out?
Oh shit! Oh shit!
So, please.
Okay, I can go.
No, please no.
Take another Swedish name. Not the mentioned the Hives though. I never like the Hives.
Yngwie Malmsteen?
Who?
Yeah.
We mentioned it before. Robin's Don't Stop the Music.
Oh, there you go. Some
which
Robin.
is, after the one I showed last week from '99, my favorite by her. It is more poppy, more electro, and I think it's cute, it's charming, and it's really amazing melodies. I'm also having we're talking now
It's a
2000
good pop album.
yeah 2003 we're talking, and that also is from Finland, Dallas Superstars, which is a Finnish band. Finland came very strong during these years. We had also Boom Funk and Seas also in 2000. This is a DJ called JS16.
It looks like a Eurovision record.
Looks like they're going to take a crap or something on that picture.
I'm sorry to say it, Chris, but my Yngwie Malmsteen stuff is extremely slim.
Jason, this looks more like a Dirty Sanchez, actually.
This is actually Dallas
Someone with
Superstars.
a diaper fetish?
Tasteful
Yeah.
cover. What is that? My God.
I think it's
Finnish-
supposed to
Finnish
show to be.
people are-
I think it's supposed to be an ass, but I'm not sure.
Finnish
I
people have
think-
the greatest taste, yeah.
The Finnish people are
This is,
weird.
Dallas Superstars, you kind of call it a kind of a dance music, a dance Euro techno style, and I really like it because it has an energy that is amazing. If you listen to the song Helium, that is instrumental. That is a really amazing beat, and fast driving also a fantastic beat. I Feel Love is a really great cover of Donna Summer song. So highly recommended Dallas Superstars from Finland.
All right. Finish, huh?
Finish. I'm finished and I'm finished.
All right. Well, this is a project. We were talking about, gorillas being, kind of a project kind of thing. And this, I remember the first time I heard a song from this record. I have it on CD and I have it on vinyl. And I was sitting in my favorite brew pub and they were playing this song. And I was like, who the fuck is this? This is amazing. And the song was called Ice in the Sheets. And it's from this project, Ugly Casanova. And the release is called Sharpen Your Teeth. So this was released in 2000 and, I forget now. It's probably easier to find it on the CD. Yes, 2002. Because I have it on the CD. And I ended up getting it on this very nice, on the vinyl, on this nice splatter vinyl. But this was a project that put together by Isaac Brock of Modest Mouse, Brian Deck and Tim Rutili of Red Red Meat and Caliphone, then Pal Jenkins of Blackheart Procession, and John Orth of Hollapaw. And there was a whole weird, fake thing that they came up with in terms of, that they got this set of lyrics from a fan after a show, and then that turned into this album. But that turned out to be all fabricated, all just crazy story. But this is music that it just really draws you in. It's dark, it's macabre, it's there's a very streak of nihilism in it, but it's just, to me, fucking great. This is just an amazing record. I mean, the whole thing about the song Hotcha Girls is just such, the pacing and everything about it. But then, of course, Cat Faces, Cat Faces in the Pie. Ice on the Sheets was the song that I heard in the bar that had me looking it up. Spilled Milk Factory, that whole line in there, about how the hell we get here, and then it goes through all these like weird random statements and all, but the basic premise of the song is, how the hell did we get here, and then it's just and why the hell are we here now that we got here? It's just to me a very, very, it's cerebral, and at the same time it's kind of anti-intellectual, because it's just trying to reduce all these spurious questions people have about the meaning of life, and it's just reducing it to getting through one moment to the next. It's kind of, I'd have to think more about how to articulate some of what I'm trying to say. But this is a great record. I really, really love it. And
it's the best record you show so far today, and it's I think it's the way people now categorize this is it's the third wave of American primitives. It's that kind of music. It's the American primitives. As you say, the minimalism. It's coming from something that is very inherent to American culture, coming from the blues, but also very minimalistic in essence. And when you say like it's dark and weird and all that, it is that, but it's mostly because there's tension and
lots of tension.
Yeah, and it's very, it's not Christian in a way. It's really there's a trance about it. Like it's like a psychedelic trance. You get into a groove and they just like play and get influenced by the mood rather than by an idea or anything. They get taken over by the music, which is the essence of American primitivism. You have the technique and you forget about it, but you can do what you do because you still have it at the core of it.
The pacing, I mean, like the Hotcha Girls song, I was just looking, at the lyrics. It's got this, like, there's this break in the song where it goes, time bends light, paints all feeling, wait outside, take 4 nights. The Hotcha Girls in the Palisades, dime store, Keats, pretty birds, pretty mouths. It's some of the lyrics come off as sounding very stream of consciousness, but at the same time, despite their incongruity, they all fit together. I keep going back to that song. How the hell we get here? Something about mashed potatoes and come on the piano and but it all just kind of
sounds like Frank Zappa. Is this Frank Zappa?
No, this is there is no shred of irony in this music, whereas with Frank Zappa, his music is often
it's not intellectual at all.
Ironic.
And as you said, it's not intellectual at all. It's really just about feelings and raw emotions. but not from a like like a singer-songwriter perspective, not at all.
No.
More like from a straight up ketamine, peyote.
Yeah. So if you ever see it, it's available, and I don't think it's that collectible, even though this was the only thing that they did. But Ugly Casanova, Sharpen Your Teeth. It's on CD and it's on vinyl, and it sounds great on both. So what you got there, Chris?
All right, so I'm going to do a couple albums from 2003. This year, I'm going to do a little bit more obscure than I've done my other years. So the first one I'm going to show is the legendary Shack Shakers with this album, Cockadoodle Don't.
No sex.
Oh my God, I think I saw this record recently.
So Colonel J.D. Wilkes from Paducah, Kentucky, which isn't very far from me, he's the leader of this band. They've gone through a lot of iterations over probably the last 25 years. Kind of described as psychobilly. You've got elements of alternative rock, elements of punk, elements of blues, elements of rockabilly.
Did you just do a video about this record?
I think I did, actually. Yeah.
Maybe that's where I saw it.
So, yeah, I think when I got it several months ago, I think I did a video about it. I have probably 3 or 4 of their records. I think this is generally considered to be their strongest record. So, it's good fun stuff. And it's one of these weird things is there are musicians in my area in Western Kentucky who the normal person on the street there would have no idea who they are, and they've had like good careers in music. And then sort of another example along those routes is this Nashville band called Forget Cassettes.
Oh,
So
I know them.
You know them?
Yeah.
Okay, so you think Nashville, so you're thinking, okay, either it's mainstream country or it's Americana, but this is really neither. They had 3 albums come out. This is the first of the 3. This one I would describe as, if you like early Slater-Kinney, it sounds a lot like that. Their other 2 albums did deviate from that sound quite a bit. The second album was really sad because Beth Cameron, who's the main person, her brother had committed suicide, and she was obviously really affected by that, the very heavy lyrics in that album. And then their last album had some electronic elements in it that really aren't part of this first album. So I don't know if, Stunty, you've heard of Forget Cassettes, so I don't know what you think of them.
I think it's all right. It's not the same, but you remember also, I think they started around the same time, Grizzly Bear.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of connect all these kind of bands together from that area. These American bands that were kind of like they came from a vacuum, like a no man's land of what is this kind of music. It was a little bit indie, a little bit folk, a little bit like post rock, a little bit electronic, but it was also not Spotify indie. It was not like an aesthetic. They were actually trying to create their own stuff without I think it's some of it is there's a couple of timeless songs on these albums, which is the best you can hope for. It's great. So many bands don't ever achieve that in a whole career, but it's good stuff.
And one of the things I did find about these albums is that a lot of times bands of that ilk will, if they make 3 or 4 albums, they all sound basically the same. And in this case, I think they all sound quite different from each other. So.
But I think that like the early 2000s is actually really a rediscovery of the American primitivism that you can kind of see, even the roots and the DNA of, even in what you showed, Chris. And I think this is related to the fact that John Fahey got rediscovered a couple of years before that, like in '98 with Jim O'Rourke and Cul-de-Sac and Glenn Jones and all these bands that were really bringing the finger picking, guitar playing into the indie punk rock paradigm, which was still fairly new. And in the early 2000s, there was a few bands like the one that Richard just showed that were, they were trying to find a new, their own modern way through that, but acknowledging that was part of their DNA, musical DNA.
It's all, yeah. I'll have to that one about with the two-headed rooster, which is also kind of freaky. But I'm gonna have to look for that one. I'm sure it's semi-available. Well, Santi, what do you have for us?
Well, I'll kind of do a follow. I'm improvising on everything today with what you guys are showing. So I'm gonna, do an echo on both of you by showing the two Caliphone albums from that time that Richard kind of mentioned. As Caliphone is the follow-up to Red Meat. Red Meat was kind of the pavement version of country folk rock, like a really lo-fi, low budget, the lowest budget kind of country rock in a way. And by the early 2000s, the main guy there, Caliphone, was still doing the same, but with better production. Not to mean that it's sanitized. It's just that he's coming from like such the lowest production values possible that these sounds like almost normal albums, but they are still very punk rock in spirit in a way, even if it is like folk bluegrass influenced, and these are great. Something that is coming from the same perspective but going way weirder and cooler in my way is the Tower recordings. This is a compilation of the 2 volumes of the futurist folk of the Tower recordings. Silk screen, amazing package. This features Samara Lubelski and PG6, but this is essentially the work of a duo, which is Matt Valentine and Erika Eder, which is Tower Recordings, and who did a lot of records under both of their name, Matt Valentine and Erika Eder, MV and EE. And this is like Terry Riley, Mexican peyote trance-induced folk ceremonies of the, as Richard said, dark, like esoteric, very esoteric, and still really catchy because it is a groove. All the tracks are long groove with lots of psychedelic elements coming in, but from a noise perspective, an experiment perspective. But at the root of it, it is still folk, bluegrass, American primitivism, which is coming from, of course, the granddaddy of it all, John Fahey, who released in my opinion, the best of his latter records in 2003, I think. Red Cross, obviously, which features it's a double LP and it features an amazing booklet with totally in tune with what he was already doing in the early 60s.
And how did you get into this, Stunty? Like, what is this from an experimental angle or American blues?
I got into this I think in 1996. I read an article about John Fahey.
Okay.
And I thought this sounds really interesting. And John Fahey became one of the biggest influence to me in my music I was making in the 90s. I was trying to do basically like indie noise rock influenced by John Fahey and prog rock, but without the aesthetics of prog rock. Basically doing prog kind of music writing, but with the aesthetics of indie and of this kind of music.
Okay.
I have a John Fahey record, or a record that he is on, and I'm trying. Discog says I have it, but I don't know which one it is. So
is this like Americana? Is that what you call that, Americana?
American primitivism. Primitives. It is
Okay.
kind of close to Americana, but it is the esoteric side of it. It's when
Right.
these guys get. I've got like 35 records from John Fahey, and I got like most of the records that are interesting on his label, in my opinion.
I'll check
Oh,
that
that's
out.
Weird.
I'll check it out.
Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to look that up too, and I'm having difficulty finding it. I'll continue because Discog says I have one of his records, but I don't know what it is.
well, the one that many people have is this one. Is the soundtrack to Antonioni's Zabriskie Point, which
I
is
don't
Pink
have that.
Floyd, but also with John Fahey and the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, I don't have that one. So, all right,
It's okay. Yeah, well, it's a cheap record. On the-
Jason, what do you got?
Okay, I got a mix of genres. I've been kind of digging in the crates as we go, and I'm up to like 2003-ish now. So it's funny because I have, for the longest time, still even now, I have like sections of records that are just 2000s because there were so many singles I bought, house, techno, etc. This one's a listening kind of record, Twine. Again, I noticed there's a lot of nudity in 2000s. Apologies. I don't know what was going on. It's on the Ghostly label out of Detroit, so Ann Arbor, maybe Michigan.
Yeah.
A really big label. Now, this is what, third wave Detroit at this point? Ghostly International label?
Fifth Wave.
Fifth wave. I mean, we're way from the originators. Kind of more white, I'd say, for the producers at this point.
It's minimal techno, like this.
Yeah. This is like very easy listening, kind of IDM, ambient. I mean, I just read up on the Discogs, like the way they describe it, like bluesy, twingy. I don't know. Anyway, it's a bit fusion.
And when you say IDM, not EDM, to be clear.
No, like intelligent dance music.
The worst name ever in music.
Isn't that kind of hubris?
Well, it's just meant that it's electronic music you don't have to dance to. So even to this day, I run a record shop and people, you always get sometimes older folks who are like, "Oh, electronic music, I don't dance, like, wooka wooka," like these kind of imagery, right? When you say techno, they don't think that you could listen to techno. They would think that that's like a club music only in a club.
I listen to it and I'll put it on and back.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people got that by now, but you do have the odd person that thinks it's disco. But I'm going to show some dance music, actually.
All right.
So this was a huge single for me. Still play it to death. Stacy Kidd out of Chicago. So we got some Chicago house in here. We have to get it in here. It's on a label out of the UK called Classic Records, which was co-run by Derek Carter out of Chicago and Luke Solomon. And Stacy Kidd, I've met Stacy Kidd a couple times in Miami and in Amsterdam at like music festivals, and that's him in the middle. And just a wicked DJ producer. A lot of disco samples all chopped up. And not experimental, but just hitting the dance floor. Another guy that loves the dance floor from France. I don't know, Stunty, if you've ever met Phil Weeks.
Yeah, I know him very well personally.
Good old Phil. Man, Phil, where's the CD? They're finding it. This is a CD put out in 2003, but generally his label, Rob Soul, is all singles. Still puts out vinyl. Even though a lot of this genre kind of moved to digital. But I've DJ'd with Phil Weeks once in Scotland. In a kind of funny scenario, we were in like a Scottish bar where neither one of us could understand Scottish. And
I don't know if the Scots can understand Scottish.
Especially drunk. And the Scots definitely could not understand French. I was sort of kind of going in between the two. Phil was like, "Can you get me some wine?" I'm like, "I don't think they do wine in Scotland." It was like whiskey bar, Anyway, fun guy. Last but not least, I'll show a couple punk records then. I don't know if this qualifies for punk, but this is a sick record. Total Shutdown. Got this recently. This is like noise rock. It's really experimental kind of
Is that
punk.
fusion?
This is fusion. Good catch. These two are not fusion. They're very unfusiony. They're very straight up hardcore punk. Caustic Christ on Havoc Records. What a 2000s label that is. Havoc out of
Good cover.
Minneapolis. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But like this is totally, we were talking about this last week with Chris. You totally expect the MySpace.com kind of logo on there or something. Last in line.
We're still a few years early for that.
Oh, maybe we're too early.
That's like 2008 to like 2011. They all have their MySpace page on there.
But like we got this like junky, what is this, like pop punk kind of logo?
Yeah.
And crappy like colored vinyl. I know everybody does colored vinyl now, but like in 2003, this is a novelty. This is just screams novelty.
So
But the
that doesn't
cover's
sound
cool.
like Blink 182.
No, this sounds like hardcore punk. Like you don't want to get in a fight, or maybe you do with this crew.
You
but-
can see on the artwork that it's not that it is noisy. You can see it's not Blink 182.
No, this looks crust, right? This looks kind of crusty.
Holy-
But then this
Yeah, that's
color,
Yeah.
this color does not look crusty.
Yeah.
This looks so like Blink 182.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of it just because of the vinyl.
Great knee high.
Anyway, I'm just a stickler.
Is there a
When
version
you
of
want-
it on like just like plain black vinyl? Do you know? Or
Yeah, like these guys just did plain black vinyl for their hardcore punk. Anyway, that's a few things there.
All right. So Jorgen,
I just quickly want to show to Jason that even in early 90s, Jesus Lizard, you had this kind of crappy color.
Yeah, yuck.
It's not that novel.
Who wants to play that record? I mean, you know what I mean? Just give me nice black vinyl. Jesus Lizard, a great band.
wow, I've never been.
I hate colored
Turned off to play a
vinyl. Most
record.
times I hate
Most
colored
of it.
vinyl.
Oh, nudity
90%.
even in 92, in 91,
In 92, also nudity. Wow.
89, sorry, this is from 89.
89. Wow.
Shit, colored vinyl in 89, huh?
My
Well, you
God.
could go back to 1969, and then they'll have,
that Dave Mason
covers that
record?
appeal to pedophiles.
I have to say I have colored 78 so also.
All right,
Jorgen has some colored CDs.
I'm showing CDs because that's the only thing I have. I don't have vinyls in some good later years. So. But I'm showing 3 records from 2004. The three I have from that I picked from 2004. First, George Michael, Patience.
Who's typing like crazy now? Okay.
Sorry.
A really, really great, relaxing George Michael album with the single Amazing. Almost continuing the same style as on older, but a little with a little softer also.
Yeah, loved
I said-
older.
I said that Finland was coming strong, and we had a lot of in rock business also had the Rasmus and so on. But in the dance music also, as I mentioned, Boom Funk MCs and Della Superstars. With that also comes K System, another really great Finnish disc jockey that picks up the little 90s style that I missed so much from U96 and or Sush and stuff like that. So it's very Euro trancey, Euro dancey style that I really liked. LOVE, such an amazing single, especially with the more of the non-vocal version. And also, gotta have some Chemical Brothers, Push the Button. When I heard the single Galvanized that has rap by Q-Tip, I was a little
hated
thinking,
it.
yes. I really loved the experimental side of Chemical Brothers from previous albums, and now comes a rap album that was highly regarded by every critic. So I thought that, what is this? Should we have rap in each and every song? But the rest of the album is really, really great. And they went then back to being.
Who was rapping on the Chemical Brothers? Stunty?
No,
Do you know?
they borrowed in Q-Tip.
Yeah,
Oh.
the first the second album also they had like almost the whole Wu-Tang Clan rapping with them.
Oh, really? Oh.
But this is a great album, Galvanized aside. So 3 albums from 2004. a year that I close right now.
Wow.
I have a couple somebody burned for me of Chemical Brothers that I was listening. I mean, they're good, but I can't remember which one it was. But they also have this like, I don't know, like a dated sound to them that.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know the word dated.
I think Dig Your Own Hole. I think that was a good album. I like some singles. I don't know if I like a whole album, but
No,
I have
see which one
I have
played recently.
all albums.
I have Dig Your Own Hole. And
I
then
have
there's
Dig Your Own
another one.
Hole. I have
the black cover. Yeah.
many Chemical Brothers albums.
All right. Well, I got a few here of a similar genre vein. So, Chris showed the single before, but I've got the White Stripes here. The Still, or however. I do like the minimalism of White Stripes, and also a similar band that I like the minimalism. They had two releases that I have during the years that we're talking about, and that's the Black Keys. With this one from 2003, Thick Freakness, very very much has that. They have kind of a lo-fi style of recording that kind of became almost a signature for them. Then there's this record that they released in 2004, and also on the Fat Possum label, and that
They have some pretty shitty album covers, I have to say. I really like them, but their covers are kind of dumb.
yeah.
I don't know.
But this is that's the Rubber Factory. I mean,
Yeah, but
got
just
tires.
the style with the red, the colors, it's too bright. I don't know.
Um,
There's nothing classic blues looking about the album cover. It's looks
but
90s kind
but
of.
it's got that lo-fi thing to it. It's like a cutout, like somebody.
It's a collage.
Yeah, collage, like what we used to do when we were in sixth grade.
But they should have stuck all black and white, punk style. But they're not punk
Such
either.
a hater,
And,
Jason.
I'm a critic today. I'm really bitchy today.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
But a great album, and
I like their music. They're really
I
good.
do. What's the one that I do? Yeah, Stack Shot Billy is one of my favorite tracks on here. Very, very dirty, grungy. That's kind of the dirty recording style. Is I think what they really employed. So somewhat that you hear with Johnny Winter's debut with the what is that called? The Electric Blues Project or whatever the hell it was called. That's a very lo-fi, dirty recording, and which suits the music really well. And I do believe the same kind of thing happens with to some degree with the White Stripes but also more so in a way with the Black Keys. Another band that I was a latecomer to. The first time I ever heard any Black Keys was in 2017, and I was like, "Oh my God, who is this band? Who is this band?" And then I find out that they've been around since the early 2000s. And then the White Stripes, I never really became aware of them until probably within the last couple of years. I just completely missed out on all of that. But
I was the same. With the Black Keys, I was the same. In fact, I think they came a few times to this town, to play festivals, and I never even knew who they were. So I kind of missed seeing them live. I saw them live once, but it was a weird concert. But
I would have. It would have been interesting because you've got just the drummer and the guitar player.
minimal.
So,
yeah.
and I've seen video of them performing where it is just the two of them. So the fact that that they have an ability to play live, their music without the necessity of having other musicians. But I think they've also toured where they've brought other musicians on stage as well, especially if there's a prominent bass line to a song.
It was just the two of them when I did see them, but it was an outdoor festival, and there was sound issues, so they complained about it on stage too. So that kind of sucked. It wasn't a
That's too
Full
bad.
treat.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen the Black Keys. I know I haven't really listened to their newer material. I'm still more infatuated with their early stuff. All right, Chris.
All right, I'll do a couple from 2004. So, Jason, you mentioned pop punk, right?
Yep.
No.
Oh shit. Oh, is it colored vinyl too?
Yeah, it's the Walmart red vinyl.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah.
Do you want to
God.
see it?
No.
Yeah.
Stop.
All right.
So
And then-
trendy. So
Know it.
trendy.
All right.
Oh shit.
All right. Well, while we're talking about two-piece bands, we'll talk about Local H. I've mentioned them before in previous episodes. So
That's a
they're
cool
based-
cover.
They're based out of Chicago. I just recently got this because this is like actually a super rare CD because it was put out on an independent label that immediately went under, and the album's been in legal limbo ever since, so they can't re-release it. But I tracked it down, so and it's got a couple cool songs that they've like California songs, a couple other ones that they play live. So, but that's one that.
Love that cover. It looks like a raver. Yeah, that's totally the 2000 or 90s look actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, into the 2000s. So it's alternative rock, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, on the heavier side of alternative rock. So Scott
Check it
Lucas
out.
is the main guy. So he plays guitar. His guitar is strung in a weird way, so he's basically playing lead guitar but a little bit of bass at the same time. And he's got one of the biggest selections of pedals I've ever seen in front of him because he's basically playing the role of the guitar player and the bass player and the lead singer. And then there's a drummer because apparently he hasn't figured out how to play the drums at the same time. So
They have a pretty big discography. I've never heard of this band before. But
yeah. So the
Be
song
grateful.
"Bound for the Floor," which with that lyric about copacetic, is like the song they're known for, but it's I think they have a lot better stuff than that. Their album they came out with a couple of years ago called Lifers, I think, is really awesome. It was like 2019 or 2020. So, but this is their 2004 rare CD that I tracked down, so I now have all their studio albums.
wow. We lost Jurgen on that.
Yeah,
that
did
show.
we lose Jurgen? How did that happen?
It was too much rock and roll.
It's too much. Well, you didn't have metal, so I mean, you didn't go overboard. But yeah.
He saw the Green
Oh.
Day hand grenade and had to bail. He's probably y'all didn't bail, but I like
Green
me some
Day.
Green Day. I don't like all of Green Day, but
Oh, I have it on a Spotify playlist. Like it's kind of nostalgic and fun.
Do you guys, if you're on Spotify, did you get this message from Spotify, like showing, like congratulating you for
Yeah,
your-
of course. Your
I don't
favorite
do
songs of the
Spotify.
year or whatever? My number one band was Mantronics.
For me, I wish I had, like, unfortunately it was in Swedish, but for me it was like, unfortunately, you didn't listen to enough stuff on on us so that we can give you any information. Which is basically, I only listened, I used it once during the whole year.
There's obscure stuff on there. You could probably build obscure playlists, but then
Why
you'd be
is
helping
that?
the algorithm of Spotify. You know, it's a little
I
murky.
don't want you to help any algorithm.
I know.
yeah, I don't do Spotify, so I don't get that.
Yeah, no Spotify.
Oh wow, guys! My whole top 5 was like old school hip hop. It was really funny. So maybe maybe a few cents will go to those artists. That'd be cool.
Well, yeah.
Well, probably not. The money will go to like a major label, and it'll just get sucked into a vacuum.
Yeah. Well, Stunty, what have you got for us now?
So, is it maybe our last round? What do you think?
I think so. We're
Oh,
getting
I still have several records to go, so I'm
Yeah.
good for at least
If we're going to
probably
do
a
one
half
more
hour.
round,
or
I
so.
can pull a couple
Okay.
more records.
Okay.
I'm going to finish with this round.
Okay, so I'm gonna show. Okay, first I'm gonna show a few records that were released in the time frame we're talking about, but on CD back then, but was later issued on vinyl. Hymns by
Wow.
Godflesh was issued in 2001, and in my opinion, this is the last great Godflesh album. It came out as a double because by the late 90s, early 2000s, Godflesh, for all their projects and side projects, they were filling the CDs to the max. You always had at least 70, 75 minutes of music. And this is probably the rawest Godflesh record ever. Like the most brutal one, and at the same time the most minimalistic one. It is limited to whatever, I don't know. And it's funny to have Music for Nations, Sony Music, and music on vinyl together. I think it's actually hilarious. So you have GC Green and Justin Broderick as the usual, the core members, and Ted Parsons, who used to be in whatever other. I think he was in David Headbutt David or something like that. Head of David. Like other grindcore industrial bands, and this is this is probably the last kind of rock and roll that excites me. There is, since that kind of rock and roll, there hasn't been. I don't think there's been any kind of rock and roll that really excites me. And something completely different. Probably the album I really discovered them through in 2001, Translusion, with still this fucking sticker that I can't get off. Translusion is a side project from Drexcia from Detroit. So the Afrofuturist electro, this duo, they basically invented a whole mythology about. They basically coupled the Afrofuturism with the sunken continent. What's the name of that?
Atlantis?
Atlantis, yeah. An alien Atlantean people that would be the actual origin of the African American black people. Basically, they try to romantically reframe the whole slavery origin of the black American. And of course, they're from Detroit, and they couple all of that together. And this album is a bliss. There are some extremely beautiful synth lines. And this is a very important album historically, because this is really the first album they did that really before that it was mostly EPs and tracks and compilations. They are, I guess, their most famous name, apart from Drexcia, but the one that got some crossover, is Doppler Effect. And they had a huge fascination with Kraftwerk and German aesthetics, which is kind of logical, because, in the sense that Kraftwerk is one of the biggest, if not the main influence on electro. And when I discovered that, that really changed a lot of things for me. And because I might have to go soon. I'm going to show quickly a couple of others. Another album that came out in 2001 or 2, but only got reissued on vinyl later. Biosphere, Shenzhou. Shenzhou, I think, is the city in China where China have their space. It's basically Cap Canaveral for China. Biosphere is probably the biggest name in ambient music, and rightly so, or deservingly so. Electronic music, but on the ambient side of things. Even if he started in that band called Bel Canto from Norway, which was like dream pop, and then he did early acid house, very not that subtle, but okay, under the name Bleep. And this is, I guess, this is around his like 7th or 8th album, and he's still going on. I don't love all of his albums, but most of them are really good, and I have quite a bunch of these. But this is one of my top 3 Biosphere albums, and also the whole concept of space. Another album that was interesting because it was an old album, an old recording, but it first got issued in 2003. This started the renaissance of Basil Kirschen. Very cool artwork on Trunk Records, limited to 500 copies. And this is a guy who started in the late 50s and was most active in the 60s, early 70s as a library soundtrack composer, brass, orchestra, exotic big band jazz. But he was also doing weird stuff. And his first album under his name was the liner notes was by Brian Eno in 69, I think, and features a bunch of the most avant-garde improvisers of free jazz in the UK and field recordings. And this is really weird avant-garde music with jazz orchestrations. And where I think it was composed for a psychiatric conference. It was supposed to be the soundtrack to that. And after that, a few unreleased recordings of his and new ones emerged. He's kind of like a British moondog. He was also blind at the end of his life, and the music shares some similarities, but can go in even more abstract directions. And lastly, a record that is I have to show because we are using this widescreen format for our screen. So let's have a widescreen vinyl. Aphex Twin, Drugs, his comeback album that was back then in 2001, I think. Yeah, 2001 was really smashed by the critics, but actually it's a great album, and people have changed their mind about it, and it's maybe Aphex Twin's best album. At least in my opinion, it's the one that is the most rewarding revisiting, the most surprising, with the most diverse types of orchestrations and sounds. The 4 LP album, and it's amazing.
It's not even a gatefold.
No, it's yeah. The guy has an ego. Let's put it that way. He wanted his record to stand out in the record store.
I think he managed to do just that.
Because how is it? It's going to stand out on the shelf too.
I mean, I will tell you that for years, like I didn't care about it. I had even tape. It was like not in good shape at all, until I realized, oh shit! Because when this was released, no one wanted this. You could find it in the dollar bin. The 4 LP album by Aphex Twin. Now it's like a $300-$400 record. So I'm happy I kept this in decent enough shape.
Yeah, that's it's funny how that happens when the opportunity to get something is for whatever reason nobody wants it, and then all of a sudden now everybody wants it.
Full confession, as this came on Warp, and I was doing the
$500 is the median price right now.
Okay, you see, I didn't lie. And
why is that album cover so weird? It's not like a regular record.
Oh, that's for the test pressing. Excuse me.
Oh,
okay. That's for the test pressing. Let me look up the regular release.
They also did an audiophile pressing of this that was worth even more when it came out, which turned out to be exactly the same as the regular pressing, which was a prank from Aphex Twin, typical Aphex Twin. But back then, as I was saying earlier, I was writing the press releases for Warp in France. So I got maybe 10 copies of this as promotional ones that I was selling secondhand, like for $20, and because like you couldn't move these, and if I had kept them, oh my god!
Wow.
Yeah. Medium price is $310 for the regular limited edition numbered 4 record set. Yeah, that's weird how some things like that, they do happen. So all of a sudden somebody says, someone who's an influencer says something about it, and then everybody else has got to have it.
I mean, it is Aphex Twin, so this was this was not like this was. It was just that the expectations were very high, and most of the critics back then were not really people who understood that music anyways. So it was I guess that the critics expected him to do another Come to Daddy, something more teenage, more like Prodigy-esque, and this is most like weird, like short vignettes of piano, pure electronic music. It, it's an album. It's a concept album. Like, I guess it's the Pink Floyd of the 2000s in a way.
Well, it also has a
Is that
very,
bad?
very tangential connection to Frank Zappa in that it was recorded in Camarillo, California. And of course, Frank was singing about she had that Camarillo Brillo flaming out along her head. I mean, that Mendocino Beano. Anyway, Jason.
Okay, yeah, this will be my last round too. Jorgen is Mr.
Maybe I'll just have to cram all the stuff that I have.
I'm going to cram all this stuff in here actually because I got to run. But Jorgen is Mr. Mainstream. I got 2 mainstream CDs right here, but they're not in Jorgen's collection. You know why? Because they're heavy metal, right? Kill Switch Engage. Not really a great metal band, but just something like a dollar bin find. You know, $8 I paid for this one. Exodus comes back with Tempo of the Damned. It's their 6th album.
No, that's a Bob Marley record, isn't it?
I know, right? Exodus. This is Steve Suzo's back on vocals. He had left for a while. A couple of years after Paul Baloff, their original vocalist, died. And it's a tour de force, 10 tracks. First time full productions by Andy Sneap. That guy produces all the current kind of modern sounding metal. And in fact, Andy Sneap has also toured with Judas Priest. I saw him play guitar for Judas Priest on the Firepower tour. So 2 metal ones.
The classic CD slipcase.
Yeah, kind of a pain in the ass in those cases. Now I got some minimal techno, IDM, of course. Stuff that Stunty might know. David Christian,
Yeah.
who is
from,
Canadian.
Canada, Alienate.
Yeah, experimental artist.
But
This is a 2004 single.
Which label is that one on?
This is actually on Krem. This is on Krem organization out of Netherlands.
The Dutch record, yeah.
Yeah, the Dutch record. But I think it's for a soundtrack or something. It's The City Without Windows
Yeah,
original soundtrack score.
Soundtrack, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a recent pickup for me. Here's a record that I loved back in the day. Montreal had a connection to the minimal techno scene. This is a Montreal Smoked Meat compilation. But yeah, this is a total IDM minimal techno on Force Inc. Records. Another minimal act we were listening to in the 2000s, Crane AK. We had this guy. This is not going to show up well on the camera at all, but Kit Clayton, minimalist. And last but not least, I'll go out with a bang.
I have
What
quite
was
a
it?
lot of Kid Clayton stuff. That was the real San Francisco sound of
Minimal techno. Very dubby. A lot of dub kind of influence in there.
glitchy techno, yeah.
Yeah. And last but not least, a pop hit for Jorgen. Lil' Kim. No matter what they say.
I thought she was a rapper.
Yeah, she is. Oh, you don't like rap? That's too
But
bad.
yeah, but it's still pop. This one is pop. Come on.
Very pop, dancey track. Very fast moving track. Yeah. Get your boogie on. That was from 2000, actually. That single, straight up.
It almost looks Swedish on that cover.
I know it does almost look Swedish. She probably could have toured
She has
Sweden
blonde hair.
very well. She would have toured very well
Every
in
Swede
Sweden.
had blonde hair.
That's my picks.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
I'll end up combining, but I'm going to have 2 more rounds for sure. I got
Okay.
so Jorgen, what do you got?
I have some. The stuff I bought most during these years were CD singles. They were cheap and they contained the songs I wanted. So I have picked out a couple of CD singles from various years between these years. First, Lucy Pearl, Don't Mess With My Man. Some really funky soul dance track that I really think is really great stuff.
Yeah, they were big for a bit.
And we have Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, The Last DJ.
What?
And there we scared away Stuntino.
How is a DJ involved in Tom Petty? I don't want to ask that question.
It's not a dance track. It is the regular Tom Petty rock style. But
Okay.
The title is like it's named The Last DJ.
It's Tom Petty trying to use buzzwords of the 2000s.
Something. Yeah. Well, maybe it's like a rock DJ, but the way the logo looks too, It looks kind of
A
dancey.
desperate way. If you don't want to be using dance music as a way to get commercial success, you mention the word DJ.
Apparently, yeah.
This was a song that I listened to so much back in 2001.
Looks like Robin.
This British band Riva, a British duo that I never heard of after this song, unfortunately, because this is a really, really great one. They had Kylie Minogue's sister Danny at the microphone singing "Who Do You Love Now" Stringer. And this was like British Eurodance. It was amazing energy and a really, really great with a great atmosphere and feeling.
Is that Kylie's sister or something? Or?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's Kylie's sister.
Okay.
The one who did like a sex tape, I think.
Mm.
Maybe two.
We have a British band called the Avalanches that
Okay.
I actually think is really, really great. This is the one single I have with them. I hope to find more, especially another song that was such an fantastic and fun song called Frontier Psychiatrist that was amazing funny. This is a more smooth song, but dance track with little great and nice rhyme that goes through it, and really great sample. I really like this one. We have a band more connected to the big beat genre, Apollo 440, and the theme from the movie Charlie's Angels. I haven't seen the movie, but I do like the theme. They have made a fantastic, great experimental dance track as a version of the Charlie's Angels theme.
Former boyfriend of mine was obsessed with Charlie's Angels.
The original or that movie, the 2000s movie? Both.
So
Beyonce had the big hit for that one, didn't she?
Do you mean Destiny's Child?
Oh, Destiny's Child, yeah. Charlie, yeah, exactly.
This is a band called Planet Funk, another song that I listened to extremely much back in 2001. Inside All the People, and from what I know, they have a Swedish member as well. But
That is very 2000s graphic design, isn't it? The font.
Looks like
and
a pervert.
Kind of my level of graphic design on Photoshop still.
what I really like about this song is that it has so much 80s influences in the production, and it was really funky. It mixed great funk music with the 80s atmosphere in it. We have another band that is a little experimental and that I also like very much. This is a British band called Bentley's Rhythm Ace.
what the hell
Was that in response to this record? Holy shit.
I would like you to evaluate that a little bit more.
Remix. So what's going on in the cover of this, Jorgen? Like a guitar and they're dancing?
You know what the Bentley Rhythm Ace is, right?
No.
It's a guitar.
No, it's a pedal. It's
Oh,
a pedal. It's
okay.
an effect pedal for
This was Ace of Base here. Oh,
No, but
this is a weird album.
This
Or
is
single.
experimental and it's really funny. It is. Check out the video; it's amazing with an Eskimo, the two guys getting stuck in the ice in North Pole, and an Eskimo dancing like a hell to get some.
It sounds very politically incorrect. I think is this Swedish?
No, British.
No, that explains it.
But it's a really funky. It's
that looks British, all right.
Yeah, Jason, Bentley's Amaze was one of the top 3 big band from the late 90s.
Oh, really? Never heard
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah, they had like it was what's his name, the Norman, the guy from the Water
Norman
Boys.
Cook.
Norman Cook.
Normal
Fatboy Slim?
Yeah, it was Fatboy Slim, Bentley's Amaze, and one or two others that were really the big hits of Big Beat.
These are the guys.
So, of course, Big Beat, we used to just call it breaks, right? Break beat.
No,
Breakbeat
Breaks
was
was
the same
before.
like
And
Beat was like rock, but
Yeah. Okay, yeah. It was more pop, kind of.
let's just say that they've gone more poppy in this one, but it's still the same concept. We have also my favorite Swedish artist that I have to show. I have the album, of course, but this is a little oddity of style in the cover. This is Peter Lemark and the single Så långt mina armar räcker, As long as my arms reaches. And it is one of the smallest CD single covers that I have.
Like a little mini CD.
Yeah.
Like a micro
It is a
cassette.
mini CD.
Yeah, but it is still functional as a CD single for 3 track.
This would be a nightmare in a car stereo if you had to slide the CD in. I think it would get lost, right?
Definitely, it's not something we use there. No, we
Yeah.
use regular.
You need a tray for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So singles.
All right.
My feet are freezing. Only I have.
I'm out too. We got to get Stunty a heater for Christmas.
No,
It's
I
coming,
have one here. But
Well,
it's
that's not enough.
no, it is.
Well-
It's just like I don't want to sound like Jason's background.
Yeah. I'm freezing too, actually. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm out as well.
All
Good one this
we'll see
week.
you, Jason. Thanks for joining.
Peace out.
I got
Thank you, Richard.
I got some more records here I can combine into a quick, although there's quite a few here, and because some of these were pretty important records, in my opinion, for that era. So I'm going to quickly go through.
Is this the
Well,
last round, or is it going to be one more after this?
Well, how many do you have? What could you do? One more round?
I've got 5 things to show. I was planning to show them all this round, and then I would be out as
Okay,
well.
so I'm going to divide mine into 2. So I'll finish with the last one.
Okay, I'll do one more.
And so quickly, I'm going to go through. Did Stunty sign off? And he looks like he kind of, I don't know what happened. So I'll just remove him. All right, so some quick ones. We've got U2. This is All That You Can't Leave Behind.
That is
Well,
a really,
people
really
like to-
great, amazing U2 album.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of, I don't know, they hate on this, but I really like this recording. I especially love the way they take their Irish Catholicism and use it as a vehicle to talk about songs about sex. I think it's really interesting how they do that. Madonna in the early 2000s, we've got a couple of hers that she did. There's American Life, and then of course Music.
I have music. Music has some great tracks, even though it's far from perfect. The other one is, unfortunately, in my opinion, one of Madonna's absolutely worst albums.
Yeah, and I didn't listen to this week. This one, I did listen to this the other day. And you're right. There's a couple songs on here that are, I don't know. They don't fit to me with the record. They come off sounding a little weird.
The problem is that they have Merve as producer, and I know Glad Stanty has left because he wouldn't agree with him, but I think Merve is extremely overrated producer, and he literally destroyed Madonna, in my opinion.
And then back to vinyl, the Shins, Oh Inverted World, and was listening to this again. I mean, I hadn't listened to this in such a long time, and I pulled it out to listen for today's episode. Really, really wonderful album, and again, it was kind of, it seemed like everything that I was listening to just was overtly nihilistic in terms of singing about, you know, love and sex, and I thought that was all pretty cool. A rare. This is a compilation, but it's material that is really quite rare and obscure. Garage rock, kind of, you know, proto-punk material from a lot of different places. It includes like a band from Hawaii. You know, these are some 60s stuff. The Tasmanians, Limey and the Yanks, Greek Fountains, Jagged Edge, Nick Hoffman are just some of the Undertakers. You know, just some of the bands that put this together. This was a blind buy for me, but it's a really great. Teenage Shutdown is the label. Interesting, you know, label on that as well. And another one that no, actually, I'm going to save my next four for ending, and probably we're down to 10 people. Probably won't be anybody to watch, but so what? All right.
You're
All right,
airing the same time as James, one of Sinatra's stream.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got a couple CDs and a few albums to show. Are you doing this next week, Richard? Because if you are, I won't.
Yes,
be
next
here.
week is going to be, you know, 2005 to 2005, 6, 7.
Yeah,
8,
because I'm not going to
9.
be home. Yeah, I'm not going to be home, so I won't be on. So
Okay.
sorry, but
I try to scramble from something, but I won't have as much as I have now. So I try to see what I can find.
Well,
right.
yeah, the 2000s, I think, you know, it's a lot of newer music, and for many of us, you know,
We got old.
It's not my strongest period in music, I can say that.
So
well, you know, I've said it before, you know, when you know, the older you get and the more music you listen to, it, you know, it really takes something pretty extraordinary to make you stop and go, wow, that's interesting. Because while the other music isn't necessarily bad, it's just, there's nothing innovative about it. It's just all, you know, formulaic, and you know, it's fine. It's listenable, but yeah, it just gets more and more challenging to discover something that is really like good. But anyway, Chris, go ahead.
okay, so I've talked about Lou Barlow from Sebadoh in previous episodes. I'm sorry Stunty's not here. So the Centrido is Lou Barlow's sort of lo-fi project that he brought back. He was posting stuff online, and then this was a compilation of lo-fi stuff he posted online that I bought directly from him, and you can see he signed it. Thanks for ordering my shit, Chris. Lou B, August 2002. I don't know. I know, Richard, you lived in Tucson at some point, but Giant Sand, this is from the year 2000. They'd been around since the mid 80s. Are you familiar with Giant Sand?
No, because when I lived in Tucson, which would have been into the maybe 1984, I wasn't all that familiar with local bands too much.
Okay. And I think they weren't around till after you left anyway. So a guy named Hal Gelb is like the leader of this group. And so Discogs describes them as like country rock, but that's not really a good description. I mean, there's elements of country and Americana and folk, but there's rock, there's alternative. It's actually very hard to describe, and even different songs on the album, he tends to be all over the place genre wise. I have like 3 other records. He has a very big discography. Apparently he has a bit of a cult following in Europe. He's actually more popular there than in America. But Shore of Enchantment is the favorite of the ones I have by him. And then we got some Mars Volta deloused in the Comatorium. So this is like your.
I want to get some Mars Volta.
Yeah, I've got a couple Mars Volta records. I mean, it's kind of pretentious, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it's very very technical, very. I mean, they're obviously great players. So there's the Mars Volta and Amy Mann, Bachelor number 2 from 2000. So I think I don't have a lot of Amy Mann stuff. Obviously, she's known for what band was she in? Was it Till Tuesday back in the 80s?
I don't know.
So, but anyway, from her solo career. And finally, I'm going to do some Erykah Badu with Mama's Gun. This was also from the year 2000 because it was the strongest of the 5 years, in my opinion. I remember in the year 2000, I was in New Orleans for an academic conference, and I happened to they were having like the Jazz Fest on, and I was able to go see it for a day, and she was one of the artists playing that day, so I saw her, and I didn't really know anything about her, but yeah, it was years later where I actually picked up this album, but so kind of your pretty good neo soul. So, all right, I'm done.
No, all right. So, do you have a closing round for us there, Jorgen?
Yep, I have some to walk out with.
All right.
I have picked the best that I have left from each year. Starting with 2000, Fatboy Slim, already mentioned, Halfway Between Gutter and the Stars. Many have said that this is not best album. I think it's a great album consisting of some of my absolute favorites by him. So a really great and experimental playhouse album, like a playhouse. He was really having fun in there. Eurotrance, Sash from Belgium, and the album Trilenium. One of the best in its genre, in my opinion. One of the best albums in its genre, containing some of my absolute favorites, including the singer Adelante, who is one of the best songs of 1999-2000, in my opinion. Roland Orzabal from Tears for Fears in a solo album, Tomcats Screaming Outside. And it doesn't sound all that different from the albums from Tears for Fears before that, Roland, the Kings of Spain, and so on. But it contains some really great tracks, including a really great song called Bullet for Brains that I think is amazing. Norwegian New Wave synth popish style, Briskeby, Jeans for Onassis, containing some of the best songs I knew back then, including a song called Wide Awake, that is a really nice new wave indie synth popish style that I really like. We have Björk, Vespertine, Björk. And as usual, very atmospheric, including one of my favorite songs from 2001, Hidden Place. Such an amazing song. We have 2002, Gigi. She is an African singer that is married to a musician I don't remember now, but this is like a jazz fusion funk with some African style. And look at the names. You have Herbie Hancock, you have Wayne Shorter,
Pharoah Sanders.
So she's from Ethiopia. The debut album of Norwegian Röyksopp, Norway's current biggest international success. Electronic, really electronic and relaxing, and containing some really great electro tracks. Bill Laswell, that is correct. That is his name. Swedish group Kent was always releasing records during these years, and they were some of my absolute favorites. This is Vapen and Ammunition, Weapon and Ammunition, that contains some of the absolute biggest hits. Very, very new wave-ish and synth-poppy style also. Aha from Norway, Lifeline. Aha, Take On Me, Aha, that is. This is a really nice, relaxing guitar pop that is sadly underrated by them. Pet Shop Boys, I couldn't show any, but I showed their Disco 3. It's a remix album.
I have Disco 4.
Yeah, Disco 4 also. Disco 3 is proof that even though, like me, you don't like remixes, Pet Shop Boys is one hell of a exception, because they always do something new and special with every mix. And finally, we have Dido. That was had some really nice years then. And she was also a member of the Faithless, a great band from Britain. This is a single from that album, White Flag, and this album, Live for Rent, is a really nice singer-songwriter-ish style.
Yeah, okay.
So it had some moments still those years, but it was not my favorite time of music as a music collector.
Well, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 more records to show to close us out. And the first one I will show, as I can make myself big here, is a really important and amazing comeback album. And that's this by Bob Dylan, released The Love and Theft. And the thing about this, it had a very inauspicious day of release. It was released on September 11th, 2001. So I don't know how much attention it got when it was released, but it is a great album. It is a really strong album. You got, and then of course he wrote the song that Sheryl Crow turned into a big hit for her, Mississippi. But a lot of great songs on here. I was listening to this the other night, and it's just really good. Another band, this is their debut record, and I just wish they made more before they disbanded, and that is Scissor Sisters. This is a poor Stunty is freezing, I guess. But this is a great record. The band, it's pop music, pop rock, but really great songs. They do an interesting cover of Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb. They also do the cover of, I'm trying to remember if it's a cover, Filthy Gorgeous, or was it covered by somebody else that they did? But anyway, wonderful band, and like I said, I wish Jake Shears in his falsetto voice, just wish they would have done more with it.
I heard Scissor Sisters, and the problem is I have that I don't enjoy the falsetto voice by Jake Shears, so I have a hard time with the Sisters.
You know, and they were huge. They could sell stadium concerts in Great Britain. They were much bigger in Great Britain than they ever were in the U.S.
Yeah, I think that there also was some that compared them like a new Bee Gees, and I would say that they're far from that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't go with that, but I do love their music. Porcupine Tree, In Absentia. This is again. I listened to this week. This is a really really good album. It initially struck me as being lacking focus lyrically. Musically, the albums are the musically there's a theme that's carrying through, but the theme lyrically it takes a while to pick up on it, and then eventually I think there it does have even though it seems like the song topics are unrelated, but it's truly amazing. This is probably my first Porcupine Tree record that I have. Other Porcupine Tree records that I have, this is an easy listen to me. It's a much more accessible listen, where other ones are really demand a lot out of you. And then my what's that? That's the Scissor Sister. My last one is a new acquisition. It's been on my want list for a while, and this is Tommy Guerrero. And this is kind of, I know Tommy Guerrero as being, to me, jazz guitarist, but this is very hip hop, lo-fi, indie rock kind of sound to it that I really like. And that's a double record, and this was released in 2002. So Tommy Guerrero and Soul Food Taqueria. So yeah, it's got an element of soul to it, and a little hip hop, and it's got that lo-fi quality with some jazz underlinings. So good records. So that's what I have to close this out. So next week it's going to be the years 2005 through 2009. And we'll see what we come up with then. I want to say, oh, look at that. The porn finally came in just as we're about to end.
Too little, too late.
Yeah.
Well, no, they know we have time to go click now.
Yeah, well, I think there's enough people who are watching that probably have wrenches so that they can, they can take care of that. Or actually, I can go ahead and take care of that. All right, there we go.
You're not keeping the stream.
So, well, this will stay up for probably, maybe a couple months before I do. I do delete them. But anyway, so that's where we'll be going next. Finishing out the 2000s, and I've got some ideas for some other live streams. In terms of themes that I think will be fun as we go along. And
are you going to go after 2010s also?
Oh yeah, so we'll go up to 2000 and we're doing 2005 to 2009. Then we'll do 2010 to, we'll see. Maybe we'll break it up into again two more, 2010 to 2014, and then 2015 to the present. Maybe.
I actually have more records from the 2010s than I do from the 2000s.
Yeah,
I will see how I can make it then, because when it comes to 2010s, little slim.
Yeah. There's although I'm getting a lot more within the 2010s as well. That there's just a lot more material. Some of my favorite bands have started releasing material. At that time. One of the bands that you all know that I talk about a lot, is that's when they started releasing, starting in 2008. They started releasing material.
That Auto Chair band.
The Auto Chair. Oh, you mean the car seat headrest? Yes, car seat headrest.
When it comes to the 2010s, the problem is that normally like this, I can show CD singles because I had CD singles from the 2000s, but 2010s, the CD singles were replaced by Spotify and iTunes and so on, and then
right, you got to get the vinyl. So
I had a problem.
Yep. So thank you, Jorgen and Chris, for joining today, and thanks to Stunty and Jason who left earlier. Great to have them on board as well. So we'll see you all and others soon. And always remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.